What do we got? What do we got? Like 30 minutes? Let's play some Final Fantasy VII. Why not? Play some Final Fantasy VII. Let's see. Volume mixer. Input device should be the Shure MV7. All right. Here we go. We going. We going. All right. Why does it do that, dude? Dude, I definitely changed. Doesn't make a difference. All right, let me try that again. Upload thumbnail. Desktop. There we go. Save that. Okay. All right, so we can just kind of chill for now. Discussion's at 8. We can play some games while we chill, wait. At everyone. Streaming live. Here we go. Extremo says, dude. Dude, what? This topic is close to home. Do you think that systemic racism exists? I'm arguing that it does. Honestly, I'm surprised it's even a debate. It shouldn't even be a debate. Well, we can just kind of chill out and play a game, I guess. Is my headset working? There we go. PlayStation 1? Yeah, it's a PlayStation 1. All right. Where was I? What was I playing? What was I doing? I don't remember what I was doing. Let me pull up the walkthrough. Walkthrough for, what is it? FF7 walkthrough. All right. I think I got my huge materia. So before you leave the high wind, make sure you're properly prepared to face the perils of the northern cave. A large number of monsters, gargoyles, parasites, scissors, death dealers, Alamang, and Master Tonberry can cause some form of sudden death. And it is a very, very good idea to protect yourself by equipping Safety Bit or Destructor Odin added effect in your armor. If you find you simply cannot protect your entire party, always take your first turn to use Death Force on any unprotected characters at the beginning of any battle with the aforementioned creatures. Secondly, as many enemies have level-based attacks, it's a good idea to monitor the levels of your party so you know which attacks will or will not affect you. Jesus. Seems kind of hardcore. Hold on. Wait a minute. That's not where I go. Hold on. Let me look. Crater, escape from Junon, huge materia, underwater. Okay, underwater reactor. I was confused. I was like, what? What? Pilot the high wind to the Junon area and head into under Junon. Where is Junon? Talk to the Shinra soldier far side of town. Give him 10 gil for a ride at elevator to Junon. Head for the pass that separates the upper and lower Junon and take the elevator to the near left corner. When you step out, you'll notice a snarling dog. Okay. Pilot the high wind to the Junon area. Head into under Junon. Okay. FF7. Under Junon. Town. City of Junon. Airport hanging above. Town of shadow polluting the waters. Junon. Junon. Where's Junon, though? Aha. Okay. I got it. All right. So we just get in the boat. Then we go to here. Emperor Fat Ass Dog says, I don't believe in systemic racism exists because we have laws protecting Americans from discrimination. Yes, but, and I will not reveal until we do the debate. So I got to go to under Junon. Say the Shinra gathering huge material around the world and bringing it to Junon. Bringing it to Junon must mean that they want to use their airplanes. I've noticed that there's a lot of Shinra ships recently. I think they're going to the offshore under reactor. Isn't Shinra trying to transport the reactor's huge materia? Okay. Let's talk to some people. Yeah, let's get rest. Why not? Nothing wrong with that. Hopefully, if you watch my intro, Emperor Fat Ass Dogs, you will change your opinion on that. Because it does empirically exist. See a weapon you want? You better buy it. Nothing in here. Nothing that I want. Grenade, tent. I think we're good. All right, we're going to go over here. We got a little bit of time before we pause this and do the Speakeazy Podcast. Whole ocean will be destroyed. Okay. Can't go in this direction. Wait, how do I... Isn't that the under area for Junon? They say Shinra's gathering huge... Bring it to Junon. Okay, we already talked. What's up here? Go up the ladder. Thank you. Oh. Who are you? Says Priscilla. Cloud. Stupid jerk. Look how much you made me worry. Were you out at the live stream? Yeah, that's right. You got to be more careful because you're going to marry me one day. LOL. It's pretty good. It's good stuff. She's waiting. All right. Juicy Smell Rot says, what differentiates the concepts of DEI from those of eugenics? DEI doesn't argue birthing people selectively? I remember years ago seeing Shinra build a long pipe underwater. The underwater reactor is connected to Junon by a pipe. You should be able to get to the reactor through it. All right, can I talk to this person? This is Shinra Inc.'s elevator. Don't be snooping around here. Why not? Let me in. How do I get in? How do I get in? How do I... Huh. Bud says, I watch your video. Matt Walsh is right in the context that we do need laws and enforcement of laws. I'm not arguing against enforcement of laws. He argues like some fucking weird racism in combination of that. That's my pushback, is his racism, his blatant racism. So the key difference is methods of... Well, there's no breeding involved with DEI. So you asked for a difference. That's a difference. They don't do DEI doesn't involve breeding. Like, it just doesn't. This direction? No. How do I get to the underwater reactor? How do I get to under Junon? What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? Oh. No. Can't get through. Nope. Someone is arguing DEI is eugenics? Yeah, Juicy Smell Rod is. I don't really understand that. How do I get to under Junon? All right, hold on. To the Junon area, head to under Junon. Talk to the Shinra soldier on the far side of town and give him 10 gil to ride the elevator up to Junon. Oh. So I just talk to this guy directly? Okay. He's willing to sacrifice his position at Shinra for 10 gil? Wow. Juicy Smell Rod says, it seems like DEI is based on a concept that certain races aren't capable of competing with races deemed to meet a certain standard. No, races are capable. It's just that there are conditions that prevent minorities from being able to compete. For example, having poor educational conditions, because the fact that our education is tied to our zip codes, and which is tied to property tax, which is tied to the value of a house, which means if you're in a poor area, less money goes to your local school. So the actual outcomes of education is worse if you're living in a poor area. So that's why we apply DEI, so that way people get included. Shinra's collecting huge materia at the Junon undersea reactor. When they're done, they'll bring it to this airport. Get out of here before you get in the way. What? Me? I gotta be watching from here. So I don't get in their way either. Okay. Wait, no. Go back. Go back. Let me know when it's close to 8 o'clock, chat. Let me know. Maybe I should set an alarm. I'll set an alarm. We'll set it to 7:55. Clock. Gives me enough time to kind of get in. We got 27 minutes. Let's do it. So white trailer park kid get the same DEI grants as, say, African-American kids at a gated community. So they get similar DEI grants, things like Pell Grant, that's based off of being poor. But as to getting the exact same one, no, they would not. An African-American would have access to African-American grants, and a white kid would likely be able to have access to grants regarding poverty. And all of that is DEI. It's a good thing that more people are educated as opposed to less. All right. Are we going the right direction? Near left corner. Take the elevator in the near left corner? Near left corner. Is this the elevator? Bruh. Is this it? Is this the elevator? Snarling guard? I don't think I'm going the right direction. Oh my god. Wow. Look at the size of that thing. My god. Oh, Cloud doesn't have any abilities. Should probably equip him. Boom, boom. Bam. Let's go Barrett. Let's go Tifa. So it breaks people up into groups based on race and status. Well, it just gives people more economic opportunity. It doesn't break them up. It just gives people who historically have poor economic opportunity to have better economic opportunity. Just sounds much more like a race thing than an area code thing to me. I mean, if you want to do it by area code, the result would effectively be the same. It's just that socioeconomically, minorities have been largely excluded from society for like a long time. Bruh, what is going on? I am so glad I have Cloud back. Like, holy crap, dude. But he needs to get some materia because he has no materia. Let's hook him up. Let's see here. Boom. Wow, good XP. Good. All right. I'm going the wrong way. Battle trumpet. Open the chest near to find the scimitar. Fight the crew, take them prisoner, take your place at the helm. Okay, I think I gotta go down then. Alright. Let's see here. Magic. Materia for Cloud. I think I have to, let me go get my save and then change out my characters and get that heal all. I need heal all. He's ignoring that both things are true. What am I ignoring? We can recognize the injustices of the past did result in negative outcomes in black communities, but also have the level of rationality admit that some people like to fuck shit up. Yeah, wait, that's true. We're in perfect agreement. We're in agreement. You figured it out. All right, hold on. I'm going to swap out Tifa. Who has the healing? I think Sid has the healing. Materia. Sid. Contain. Destruct. Counterattack. Ice. Fire. MP Turbo. Sense. Restore all. This is what I need. Damn it. That's not what I wanted. There, I need that. Speaking of which, should grab this destruct and contain for sure. All right. So materia for Cloud will be heal all and destruct and contain. There we go. Now we're talking. And for Sid, let's get the PHS. Switch Sid out for Tifa. And I think we're good. Yeah. Let's save. Yeah, but did you burn stuff up and mess things up because you were poor or because you wanted to do it? I mean, I was poor and I wanted to do it. I was a hoodlum. I was a little punk, dude. I'll be honest though, like trying to ruin my life by, putting me in prison would have been terrible. That would have resulted in worse outcomes than to just allow me to continue existing. Like I just did better off. All right, so let's see here. All right, take the elevator. Head for the path that separates Upper and Lower Junon. Take the elevator. The path that separates Upper and Lower Junon? What is it talking about? What is the path that separates Upper and Lower Junon? Go here? Is this the path that separates Upper and Lower Junon? Take the elevator in the near left corner. Is this an elevator? Where the elevator at? What? What just happened? Oh, okay. I may be mistaken, but doesn't it feel like we're missing something? What? What? Come on in. Juicy Smell Rot says, I was by all means shithead when I was a kid too. Who isn't? Exactly, bro. Maybe not throw them in prison. Maybe like help them out when they need it. Heck yeah. Based. Fucking based. Seal magic. Honestly, I want to get fucking... Let's get one more restore, just in case. A revive wouldn't be bad. I think I'm good with that. Peter Bill says, in the United States, which marginalized groups have been targeted by systemic discrimination? In the United States, black people, overwhelmingly. Can't believe that a monster-like weapon really existed. We got that. We're done here. We gotta leave. The debate will be soon. It starts at 8 o'clock for now. We're just gonna be playing some games. This machine hasn't been working right since Weapon got to it. Ooh. Anything good? No, nothing good. It's all garbage. Garbage. Black people. When? Redlining laws? Weapon of meteors scared everyone else law, but I'm sitting here soused as usual. I'd like to close the shop, but when I get the regular thing about, I know what to do. Okay. I don't know what to do. Okay. Gotcha. Get me out of here. All right. I think we're done there. I'm going to check this one here. There's a doggy. All right. They're not going to get me down. Not me. Weapon, meteor, even bad customers aren't going to get me. Am I a bad customer? That's a good weapon for Sid. I wonder if I should buy it, though, because I'll buy it. Just, it's only one item. Might as well. All right. Dougie. Bark. Okay, so hold on. Separates over Laura Junon in the near left corner. When you step out, you'll notice a snarling dog guarding a corridor to the right. There's nothing you can do with it for now, but just take note of it for future reference. Follow the path to the underwater reactor and proceed to the submarine dock, okay? Peter Bell says, only during redlining laws? It's not currently happening? I mean, you can go to any... You can go to the Rosa Parks Drives and the Martin Luther King Avenues throughout the United States. It's overwhelmingly minorities that are pushed into those regions. And it was largely because of redlining laws and systemic discrimination that existed in the past that still show as pervasive even to this day. Hey, that's the underwater reactor. Come back. So it doesn't have to happen today. It just still exists. There are systems that exist that prevent a person's success. How about whoever stays alive gets to take her out? All right, you're on. But what if both of us? Don't even talk about that. fuck them up. We're going to win. Does Tifa not have anything as well? I got to get Tifa equipped. What the hell? Let's get Tifa equipped. I thought Tifa had a heal all. Who doesn't have a heal all? Take everything. Yeah, what the hell? She got all of her stuff unequipped. Messed up, man. Where's all? Only... what? It's a level 3 restore right here. It gives you cure 2, regen. Oh my god. I don't have... poison? I have... yeah, poison. Poison's good. Chocomog is good. Bahamut is good. Phoenix is good. Restore is good. Wait, I already have Restore. Gravity, I guess. My god, I can just equip everything, I guess. Morph? Why not? Steel? Kiata? I already have Restore. We're good. Just make sure she's got a... yeah, I mean, there's just 2... I mean, I guess I could just have the Chocobo Lure and that extra Restore just leveling up in the corner there. Nothing wrong with that. Let's do it. Where are the MLK streets in the USA? Rural Oklahoma, Texas, inner cities. Everywhere. Gulp. Great. There went 2 perfectly good men. Do I just leave? Had a housemate with an Xbox with all these old games. Hell yeah. Let's go. Based. Okay, back to work. Yawn. I'm sleepy. For Junon. We must fight. Attack. Boom. Attack. Boom. Attack. Boom. No problem. Got this. No problem. What are we worried about? Boom. Bam. Yeah. He hits hard. Cloud hits hard. All right. Chocomog, level up. Hi, doggy. Let's say hello to doggy. Oh, more fights. We got a little bit of time before the Speakeazy Podcast, so sorry for not taking any calls. We're just relaxing till we're ready for the big debate. Boom! Bam! Boom! 3,000 gil. Easy. Good money. We keep going. First, have you done any research on your opponents on how they debate or watched any of their debates? None. Literally 0. I don't want to do that. I'd rather just debate their discussions instead of like preemptively trying to figure out what it is that they're going to think. I'd rather just debate what they say. I think I have enough ammo. Magic. Wait, where's my cure? Wait, does he not have any cure? What? No, I equipped materia on him. What do you mean? Oh, this is heal. God damn it. Materia. Tifa. This, I need this. Give me this. Materia for Cloud. Restore. All. Contain. Destruct. Okay, good. Materia. Tifa. Poison. Heal. Okay. Yeah. Peterbilt says, lol, at everywhere. Do you know the new social justice monuments, street names Dearborn, happen in leftist cities and not red states and cities? What is your point? All right. Let's go. Do we fight? We fight? Let's fight. We're fighting. We're going down. Caution. Big old caution light. I like that. Caution. Let's go. Boom, ba, 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 ba. Ooh. Even I agree with you on the subject. In the debate, you're probably going to get smash mouth because you're pompous. What does that matter? Contradicts your former point. Hold on. Talking about, you're saying, okay, hold on. Social justice monuments happen in leftist city. What does that have anything to do with DEI? What exactly does that have to do? Like, I'm talking about redlining and how it exists. It does. And you're like, well, what about leftist city? They have like leftist monuments. Therefore, DEI doesn't, what the fuck is your logic? It doesn't make any sense. Jesus. All right, let's see here. Magic. Cure. Cure. Onward. Peter Bale says, I said nothing. You were arguing against DEI. You were saying, oh, I'm sorry. You were arguing against systemic racism, saying it doesn't exist. But it does. What does that have to do with redlining? Like, what does having statues and monuments have anything to do with redlining? All right, let's take a look here. We fighting something? Oh, shit. We went down. We went down. Let's go. This place is kind of cool looking. Neat. Very machine-like. Very cool. Very cool. Fight. Bam. W rocket punch. Dang. W rocket punch. Bam. We gotta heal Tiffers. Oh. It died before I even had the chance. Alright. Doop. 500 gil. You said nothing about DEI. You're right, I misspoke. I was referring to systemic racism. Magic. Cure. Cure her. Okay, we're good. Moving on. Time to refill that plastic cup. Yeah. Soon. Right before the debate, I'll probably do a refill. So what did K get wrong? K? What are you talking about? Who's K? Boom. Ow, what is that? That like looked like it was going to deal a lot of damage and it just dealt no damage. I'll take it. Man, how much health does that thing have? There you go. It's dead. Bam, bam. Attack. 935. Attack. Boom. Yeah, he can't deal enough damage to me. Bam. We good. We good. 2,400 gil. Good. Good money. Onward. Save. Should I stop right here, I suppose? Because we only got really about 5 minutes and then I got to start prepping. So we might as well stop right here. Let me turn off my alarm. Sleep. All right. Okay. Let's get started. Are you sure you want to close down? Yes. All right. All right. Speakeazy Podcast. Let's go. Speakeazy Podcast. Joining in on StreamYard. Joining in on StreamYard. Do. Do. Start that replay buffer and turn on the virtual camera. Start the replay buffer and turn on the virtual camera. Just first amender. It's fine. Enter studio. Okay. You're backstage. Does systemic racism exist in the United States? First, have you read The Art of War? No, I have not. I have not read that one. Looks like Speakeazy is here. Anyway, you just gotta wait, I guess. Let's put on some music while we chill. Where is my playlist? We should copy link address and open it in Edge, because then I have control, much more control over the sound, because I have it turned down a lot. Hell yeah, let's go. All right. Cowcrapper says it's short and easily digestible. Okay, sick. Art of War is a pretty good read, and it can apply to a lot of things outside of war for sure. I'll put it in my list of stuff that I gotta read. Give me a quick second. I'm gonna refill my drink and use the bathroom and kind of get everything ready. Hang tight. Oh, I should probably put on BRB. I actually did read Rules for Radicals. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, I did read that one. Okay. Knowing who your debate opponent is and not look up watching any of their debates. I think it's like know thy enemy is kind of what you were referencing regarding the art of war. Listen. If I come at them doing a bunch of research, right? If it's like a big giant like YouTuber, then I probably will. But so far the Speakeazy people have just been kind of like, I don't know who this person is. People about as big as I am. Do you guys remember the intro for this show? It's so cringy. I'm going to turn it down. I'm going to turn it way down. Because it's like super loud. It's like really loud. Joe Jitsu says, when does this debate start? In about 4 minutes. They said 8 o'clock, I believe. Yeah, 8 p.m. Eastern. Never watched Speakeazy before. It's mostly a pretty right-wing podcast, so it's kind of like going to be likely going to be blood sportsy. I'm going to try to be very good faith to begin with, but obviously a lot of these like right-wing debates, they end up becoming pretty nasty. In which case I'm more than happy to dole that out in spades.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yo, how you doing? Hold on, I need to switch over to my.
That was very loud.
Oh, sorry, I got my.
No, you're good.
I might have my gain turned up.
Whew.
My bad.
It's
Good.
not on. That's not on you. I'm just. I'm streaming from my end, and so I am.
I'm streaming as well.
You were on my TV. You were on my monitor, and then now you're in my headphones. So yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, let me just.
What's your do you have a YouTube handle or is it a Twitch handle, Tomahawk?
Yeah, Tomahawk PWPT would be on Twitch, and then I also have a @SeniorMissileMonkey here.
What
on
do you
YouTube.
usually like? What's your main? Is it Twitch?
So
is it
far,
YouTube?
I would say it's Twitch, but I don't really have too much. I haven't really been streaming
You're
that
good.
much. I streamed a couple of times, but I don't
You're good.
really have anything at the moment. I'm slowly building up.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and this is your debut for like a debate like this, right?
I know. Yes, it is. So, needless to say, I am nervous, and I spent the last 40 minutes getting the nerves out.
There you go. That's good. Got that ready.
I don't know if people heard that or not, but that was nice for me.
Hold on. Why is that doing that? Oh, there we go. Okay.
You can never truly get rid of the nerves. So.
Yeah, I always when people talk to me about fears and stuff like this, I always say the trick to getting over fear is that you don't. You just accept it,
Yeah, as we go through it, as the debate goes on, as the conversation goes on, that'll slowly like fall away and whatnot. But in these before times, once we get into it, I'll feel better. But
you'll do just fine.
This preliminary session can never truly get over the stage fright before the act.
Fair. All right. And then just a reminder for you both, just to make sure you're both good, 10-minute openers, 5-minute uninterrupted rebuttals, hour of open floor, then 5-minute closings, then a 30-minute Q&A as well. And then the after panel, it's optional if you guys want to stay for that.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Yeah, I'm good, bro.
All right. Oh, and let me actually...
The only thing I think I'm just a little unclear on, just on my end, is how I would share this. Not the link, not the debate itself, but like share on my screen. Would I be sharing?
So are you
plus
using
button to present? There's like a plus button at the bottom.
I'm on StreamYard. At least I'm on StreamYard right now.
Yeah, there's like a plus button at the bottom.
Do I share the debates, like the actual live stream, or do I share?
No, you share the StreamYard that we're in right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then once you share it, you just hit the little maximize on the bottom there, and it'll make it full screen.
Gotcha. It won't show like a double of me. Actually, no, it won't, because I'll just take myself out. That's what it is.
Well, when you maximize the other screen, no, don't take yourself out. Because then they won't hear you. Nobody will hear you on your side if you take yourself out. Yeah, you just share the StreamYard, and then you'll see, like, in this square here where we are, you just hit the little full screen on it after you shared it, and it'll present it fully.
This is for on my side, at least. I'm currently seeing myself triple. That's what it is. You guys, you know what? Forget this.
Yeah, it's quick. Listen to me quick. You're using Chrome tabs, right, too?
Actually, DuckDuckGo, but they're similar.
Yeah, but it won't pick up the sound if you're not using. Well, you can still do the sound if you have a certain.
I'm sorry, not DuckDuckGo. Opera. All
right.
Do you have Google Chrome tabs or no?
It's a DuckDuckGo browser. I didn't even know that.
Opera, like Opera GX and whatnot.
No. I know what Opera is. I'm saying I didn't know DuckDuckGo had a browser.
That's what I use on my. That's what I use on my phone.
Yeah. All right. So listen, what you're gonna do is hit present, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When you hit present, you go to share screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So your options there, you have 3 options. Well, maybe it doesn't show you Chrome tab, does it? Just shows you window and entire screen.
Oh, it says Opera tab, which is basically
okay.
Chrome tab. Yeah.
That'll probably work then. Okay, so you'll see the StreamYard in there, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, do that and then hit share.
Yeah, it says also share tab audio as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Click yes for that.
Yes, it is now added to my stage.
Okay, now that it's added to your stage, come over to the StreamYard here.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You're going to see you can maximize the square that we're in here. You see that?
It. Yeah. It's now full screen it's now full screen on the thing.
Okay, but are you still on your stream?
Yeah, I'm still on my stream.
Like it shows you.
It shows me twice. Sorry.
Okay, so now in that StreamYard, the other StreamYard,
yes,
in your shared screen, hit the little box in the top left corner, so it only shares that, but your audio will still be heard over there.
Oh, I see it. Okay, got it.
You got it?
Yeah, I hit the box, and okay, I'm not shown as double on my stream now.
Perfect. You just see what we got here, right? All right. Perfect. You got it, man. You got it. Don't worry. I'm done with technology, so it's able to explain it to somebody else who doesn't understand too.
Hey, I appreciate it, dude.
All right. So okay, and again, the intro, it's just gonna be my disclaimer, the song and intro. Then I'll introduce the show, the prompt, you guys, and then we'll get into openings. First amender, you're on the positive side, so we'll let you open first. And then when we do closings, we'll let you go first again, and that gives Tomahawk the last word.
Sounds good.
Good. All right. And again, thank you both for being here, and good luck to you both, gentlemen. Let's get this rocking and rolling.
Warning. The information shared in these conversations.
Yeah, I'm turning it down for this chat. This portion here, their like crusade thing that they got going on, it's really freaking loud and it's really cringy. It's really annoying. I'm turning it down. So we're gonna listen to some nice music while we wait. Whew. I promise you like this music a lot more than what they're gonna. Here, I'll tell you what. I'll play it just so you can see what it's like, and then realize what I'm doing is I'm saving you the heartache. All right, here, watch. Ready?
Private study, education, parody, satire, criticism.
You ready
review,
for it? It's
and
coming.
news reporting.
Step up! Yeah! We clear! We clear! We clear! We clear!
It's so cringy.
Truth on my blade, every line's explode.
Hell no. I am not playing that. Whoa. All right. I'm gonna let them get through their like Crusader LARP. Or yeah. I'll turn it up as soon as whatever this is over. Calcrabber says you undersold the madness. Okay. See, the music I have is much better, much more calming. It's relaxing. It's nice. You know? I just got to remember to turn it way up. Like as soon as it's over. Right? Because they're going to start talking right away and I gotta make sure that I can hear them. So as soon as we see that this stops and that I have spared y'all the music in this. I have no idea why they seem to enjoy the idea of like Crusaders. Not a good, yeah. Templar LARP that's really cringe. I'm just gonna say, just off the top of my head, that's insane. That's not a good time in history. like that was a literal genocide. All right, so here we go. I think are we ready to start?
Welcome everybody to Swords of Reason right here on the Speakeazy show, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And this is where logic meets passion. If you're new here, the format is simple. Each debater gets 10 minutes for their opening statement, followed by 5 minutes of uninterrupted rebuttals. After that, we'll enter the arena for a full hour of back and forth debate. This is where they can, the iron will sharpen the iron, you know. And finally, each side delivers 5-minute closing statements to lock in their case. And when that's done, we move into the 30-minute Q&A. I'll drop a Q&A in the chat for all of you to ask a question for the debaters. But keep in mind that the Super Chats, PayPals, and Cash Apps questions, they do get priority. And if those fill up the entire 30 minutes, the free chat questions may not get answered. So if there's something you want guaranteed to be asked, take one of the priority options. And once the formal debate wraps up, we open the doors for a chaos and chill panel. This is where the community can hop in, challenge the debaters, ask follow-ups. But this is if the debaters choose to stick around because that part is optional for them. This is where things usually get a little wild, of course. And today's debate prompt, does systemic racism exist in the United States? And today's debaters on the affirmative tonight, we have the first amender, known for his hot news discussions, political debates, and his debate a woke liberal call-in show that he does right here on YouTube. You can find his channel linked in the description below. And on the negative, we have Tomahawk, new to the Swords of Reason arena and making his debut in formal debates tonight. His channel is also linked in the description, and with your support and subscriptions, I'm sure he'll be bringing us plenty more content in the future. So make sure you guys go show him some love as he steps in the ring for the first time. All right. With that all being said, we'll move right into opening statements. First amender, you're going to be first. So whenever you are ready, I will start the timer up with your voice. And again, thank you both for being here tonight.
All right. I actually have a slide here that's ready to go, so I'm going to be sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Share screen. Share screen. Hold on, just give me a second.
Yep.
Share. You should be able to see it. I think you have to present it on your side there,
Yep.
Speakeazy. So the question is, does systemic racism exist? A debate with First Amender. And you can find me on youtube.com/@firstamender. You could check out my channel and consider subscribe. What is systemic racism? Systemic racism are racial disparities that are produced and maintained by institutions, laws, and policies and social systems, even when nobody is intending to discriminate. It's all about outcomes. Intent does not matter. Imagine that there is a system built decades ago with openly racist rules. Even if you remove the racist language later, the effects can still persist. Example, race was barred from owning property in certain areas, such as HOA restricting minorities in predominantly white neighborhoods, as well as redlining laws. Property ownership is the main way that wealth is accumulated. Wealth determines the school, the neighborhoods, the credit, as well as political power. The detail. Redlining occurred nationwide. Redlining is the practice of denying people access to credit because of where they live, even if that they are personally qualified for loans. Historically, mortgage lenders once widely redlined core urban neighborhoods and black-populated neighborhoods in particular. The 1968 Fair Housing Act outlawed racially motivated redlining and tasked federal financial regulators, including the Federal Reserve, with enforcement. Redlining was found even after it was banned formally in 1968. Example, 50 years after being outlawed, redlining still drives neighborhood health inequities. Discriminatory lending practice continues to have serious effects. This is from the University of Berkeley of Public Health. Decades of redlining, a long-standing banking practice that blocked people out of color from getting mortgages, continue to perpetuate racial and socioeconomic inequality in the San Francisco Bay Area and across the country, according to ongoing research from UC Berkeley School of Public Health. Redlining exists and existed, but so what? Well, education. The school you went to from K through 12 is associated with the district that you grew up in. A majority of funding for K through 12 public schools overwhelmingly comes from local property taxes. In 2021 school year, around 44.1% of public school funding came from states. The total funding of the source per student you could observe local and state is overwhelming majority of where funding comes from, which means a majority of your funding is in fact property taxes. Education continued. Schools are funded through property taxes, and property taxes are garnered based on a percentage of the total value of the home appraised by the government, often lower than its actual perceived market value. If a property tax is, say, 4%, one house is worth $125,000 versus a home worth $1.2 million. That is a huge difference in how much funding is allocated. $48,000 in yearly property tax versus $5,000 in a poorer district. This means poorer districts fundamentally receive less money, and therefore worse education depending on the zip code that they are born in. The impact of redlining. Poor K-12 education means minorities often underperform in terms of educational attainment. Why? Because opportunity was removed from them at the time of birth. No racist actor is required. Ask yourself this. When you visit your Rosa Parks Drives and your Martin Luther King Avenues across the country, not in 1969, but today, do you see an overwhelming amount of proportionate population to U.S. statistics? Or is it overwhelmingly minority somehow situated in that location? What do you think the cause of that is? Ergo, if what I said is true, then systemic racism exists. And syllogistically, the definition of systemic racism exists if and only if a social system contains race-based rules or inherited structures that predictably produce racial disparities in outcomes independent of individual intent. Premise 1. Any system whose rules or inherited structures predictably produce racial disparities in outcomes independent of individual intent is systemically racist. The U.S. housing and education system contains inherited structures originating in redline that predictably produce racial disparities in educational outcomes independent of individual intent. Conclusion, therefore, systemic racism exists in the United States. Thank you. And you can follow me at youtube.com/@firstamender.
All right. You still had 5 minutes. Is that all you wanted to do there?
That's all I needed.
All right. Thank you for that opening statement. And with that, we are going to hand the mic over to Tomahawk. And Tomahawk, whenever you are ready for your opening statement, I will start the timer up with your voice.
Right. When one defines systemic racism, what often comes up is Black people oppressed, Black people without the opportunity to advance in society through education, career, or entrepreneurship, and how people of color historically did not have as much opportunity as white folk. My opponent brought up redlining. My opponent brings up the fact that, you know, property taxes are the ones that fund schools, but usually when you talk about when talking about redlining like that, when talking about property taxes, it doesn't take into account those that escaped, those that those people who, even though they may come from those worse off towns, but they hardened themselves and they through adversity, they were able to move out of those bad, quote unquote, bad towns, those redline towns, into better neighborhoods, and then were able to still take part in those same resources and opportunities given to them by the better property counterparts. The opportunities are there. And I would define it as racist. I would personally define it as racism on the level that is encouraged by the institution to favor one race or ethnicity over another, similar to what my opponent brought up in terms of, you were born in it, so to speak. In this case, it would be like legislation, national through state, career, education, policing / enforcement. Pre-1964, the gatekeepers to almost all of the forms of influence and power in the United States were white people because, well, they were the majority ethnicity. They are still the majority ethnicity. Therefore, they're going to be able to, through their country and their settlers, they helped build the nation that we have today. You were treated better if you were white because, well, that was normal. That was considered normal, and through slaves and through redlining and stuff, through slaves and the slavery and whatnot, you had the fact that those minorities would come into American society as a quote unquote lower class because they were not given the opportunity to essentially show what they could do. Post the Civil Rights Act of 1964, these differences were essentially legislated out, with the culture following suit over the next 3 decades through education. And through education, at that point, all resources, opportunities, places of business, entrepreneurship, I became open to all citizens through the 14th Amendment, Brown versus Board of Education, which all culminated into the Civil Rights Act of 1964. At that point, all resources, opportunities based on creed became available to every American citizen from that day forth. You could not hire, fire, deny based on creed, sex, orientation, or race, or national origin. It would take time to get used to, as was the friction that was caused right after the passing of that law. But at that point it's been codified, and then through those next 3 decades of education of telling basically the populace, hey, your neighbor is the same as you under the U.S. Constitution. U.S. Constitution, it would it would smooth out over time. All this to say, everyone in America has the ability, the opportunity, the potential drive to pursue any career field, entrepreneur chance, employment, resource, job, etc. in the United States. Redlining, in that sense, is not a real viable stopping point, because even with its banning, and sure, you may have effects of it, but that's really up to the fact that people, he did mention education, but that's just it. If you learn that you have the opportunity, you have the ability to go set out for yourself and be better, which is where this whole thing comes from in terms of systemic racism, and telling basically an entire populace that they can't do more with themselves because of subjective at this point subjective effects of past deeds. The fact that at this point they can, that is the main point of contention when talking about whether or not systemic racism exists. When you tell an entire populace that they can do something, and you encourage them to go forth and at least attempt it, you can't really call in systemic racism when not only can they do it, but a lot of them have done it. You have many examples. You have Clarence Thomas, you have Jasmine Crockett, you have all of these. Those are just 2 examples of people who, in a sense, have made it. They came from essentially, and those people came from either the slums, or in I think Ben Carson's case, I'm not too sure on that. However, they are all very well renowned and very well educated people. So even though you have a population that still is in the ghettos, there's other reasons for why that still is the case for at least those bunch of people. How would my opponent reconcile with the fact that you have a whole bunch of very well-educated Black people and very well-educated minorities, especially in the Asian community, that came in from slums, came in through the slums, through being treated as less than, and then came up to be one of the premier minority groups in America. Everyone in America has the ability to advance, has the ability to take resources and be able to collect within themselves and be able to collect for their own. What my opponent would need to answer to, and I don't think he can, to any real specificity other than talking about redlining, which can be explained away through the fact that there are a whole bunch of people from those same communities that thought to themselves, even I learned that I still have all of these opportunities, these tools. I can still make something for myself. I can still make something for the people around me, and I would be determined to go forth and make a name for myself. That's why you have so far my examples come from people who have made it to positions of power. Your Clarence Thomases, your Baron Donalds, your Ben Carsons, Jasmine Crockett, Barack Obama being the pinnacle of this whole. You have the opportunity. You were given the opportunity. And therefore you can make it. The fact that we have that things like Barack Obama's election into being the president in 2008 meant that we can do anything. We have the opportunity to. All of the tools are there at our disposal. We just need to use it. And what continues to happen is that, especially with people on the left, we're just told, just from birth that you can't do it. Just from birth, it's pretty much set in stone. When that's not the case. It was the case before, in pre-1964, but after the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, basically telling everyone that you can make it in America. It doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter where you came from, you can make it. all that's left is simply knowing how you can make it. And that's where institutions, and particularly on the left, tend to falter and tend to keep that information away from Black people. Systemic racism couldn't really exist when everyone today now has the opportunity to succeed, now has the means of which to succeed for themselves. They just need to go out there and take it. The right encourages this. They say, we will give you the tools. We teach you how these things work. We teach you the way that in which you are able to do so. Whereas the left does not give you those tools. They just say, well, you just can't do it. Through things like redlining, because you live in a poorer town, you just can't do it. When the whole point of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is to tell you categorically that you can. I'm going to end off saying, like, so this is systemic racism. If it were to be a real problem in today's day and age, it's a problem. Therefore, it's a problem that needs to be solved. And if you can't categorically solve this problem or lessen it to the point where it becomes a non-issue, why continue to fight? Why continue to bring it up as a point of issue, if not to gain something from it, from the fact that of the issue itself and what it causes? For that, I yield my time.
All righty. Thank you for that opening statement, Tomahawk. And that will wrap up the opening statements from both sides. We're going to move into the rebuttal here. Each debater has 5 minutes uninterrupted, so no interjections or nothing. And then after that, we'll get into open floor. So we're going to hand the mic back over here to First Amender. And First Amender, whenever you're ready, I'll start the timer up with your voice.
I'm ready. For starters, you said that it does not take into account those that escaped. It does. It just generally means that minorities did suffer as a result. This does not mean that there are not Black people that could not get a leg up. There certainly could. It's entirely possible. We know this to be a fact. The fact is, though, that minorities have had, in fact, lower educational attainment and higher household income, or lower household income being a good example of that. Black people historically, and even to this day, have lower household income, which means that there is less money that goes towards higher education. You were treated better. You stated you were treated better if you were white because that was normal. Okay, so if you acknowledge that, that would actually mean that you're agreeing that there were systems that cause rippling effects of racism, right? And then you stated you can't hire and fire based on race. That's wrong. You 100% can. Just because you cannot list the formal reason of firing somebody, you do not have to list that it is because of race. You could simply cite something such as poor work performance, and that is sufficient and totally allowed, but the underlying predicate could absolutely be a racial one. You then stated that you can get any job or education that you like. Well, that's somewhat true, but also not necessarily true. If you do not have the money, for example, you're rather limited in what specific education you can get or job that you would be able to attain. If people have poorer socioeconomic status, this would reduce a person's ability to succeed compared to white counterparts. This does not mean Black people cannot succeed, but rather that there does exist a systemic issue that pushes others down. And I can prove that through redlining. When you tell you stated, when you tell a population that they can do something, then you can't call against systemic racism. I once again am going to say that you can. I agree that you can do something, and it is totally possible to succeed. This does not, however, dismantle whether or not that systemic racism does exist. It does. You then stated there are other reasons as to why somebody would be in the ghetto. And my answer is yes. And sometimes it is also because of systemic racism. I'm not saying someone who grew up in a poor area couldn't help themselves. They certainly can, but that does not mean it does not exist. I love that you brought up as an example Clarence Thomas as being successful. I want to let you know that Clarence Thomas, and you should look up the history of Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas is the ultimate DEI hire. Systemic racism did exist in that there were no black students allowed in Yale. In fact, in any Ivy League school were black students allowed, enabling someone access to an Ivy League school. But when black people were then included in Ivy League schools, Clarence Thomas was one of the first. If it were not for pushing back against systemic racism, Clarence Thomas would likely not have been a Supreme Court judge, as having not been in an Ivy League school due to systemic racism. And you said it does not matter what you look like, you can make it. I agree, and I think that that's a great air of mentality to have. This, however, does not combat as to whether or not systemic racism or systemic systems that push minorities down do not exist. They certainly do. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you for that rebuttal. And with that, we're going to hand the mic over to Tomahawk. Tomahawk, whenever you're ready for your uninterrupted rebuttal, I will start the timer up with your voice.
It was a lot to see there, but in your rebuttal, you say that even though minorities did suffer, just because minorities still suffer, there are reasons such as the crack epidemic that came through in the 1970s, as well as welfare systems that were introduced to help out poor folk in getting them, but that's an entirely separate issue. You can't really say that even if you don't have money isn't racial. Not having the money isn't racial in the sense that there are many poor communities and people who may not be able to advance themselves because they don't have money. That's not a racial problem. That is a wealth inequality, and wealth inequality by itself is not racial. There are poor areas all over the country where people of all types, of all races, are not able to advance themselves because of through no fault of their own. And you say Clarence Thomas was the ultimate DEI hire because at the time it was part of that friction post the Civil Rights Act of 1964, where it was slow for the culture to catch up to what the spirit of the Civil Rights Act was attempting to do. With desegregation, it was landmark because he set the stage for many other black judges to come up through the system. He was simply the first, just like Barack Obama was the first black man to be elected president. And through he may have been the first one to get there, but he since then proved himself to be one of the premier justices that we have had in this country. You want to talk about who's a real DEI hire? We can bring up Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was appointed during the Biden administration, and we can tell just based on the differences between her dissensions and Clarence Thomas's dissensions, and Clarence Thomas's comments, who truly is the DEI hire, based on the fact that almost every single time that Ketanji Brown Jackson would bring up some dissension, it was only lodged in, not the word is escaping, I don't have the right word, but she only talked about race. She only brought up the fact that it was just a someone was being disadvantaged somewhere, whereas Clarence Thomas would talk about how this would how what was being argued against or argued for was a what it meant for the actual constitution, how it would apply. That's not a racial thing. If anything, the DEI hire at this point would be Ketanji Brown Jackson. And I would say through I don't really have anything, but poor areas, everybody has the thing about everybody having a shot, and the systems at play. Sure, you can come up with any sort of reason for why something, and the underlying may be racial. However, at that point, you would be looking at more individual cases and how that would not be systemic, because at this point, it wouldn't be what am I looking for? You'd have to go on a case by case basis at that point, and with that, we'll just go into open panel because I'm not really good with these rebuttals here.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you for that rebuttal, and great rebuttals from both sides. Before we move into the open hour of back and forth, let me talk to the audience real quick. If you're watching right now, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and subscribe to both the debaters. Okay, their links are in the description, and we host all kinds of debates here on Swords of Reason, politics, culture, ethics, internet topics that just come up. We even debate video games here. So if you're enjoying it, make sure you subscribe. Also, a reminder for the live chat: after the closing statements, we'll be doing a 30-minute Q&A. So the Q&A is already there if you guys want to put your questions in. But remember, super chats, PayPals, Cash Apps, these things do get priority. And if it fills up the whole 30 minutes, we may not get to the live Q&A in the chat. So if you really want something answered, send it through one of the priority options, and we'll make sure it gets passed. And finally, thank you again to both the debaters for being here tonight and bringing your perspectives to the arena. Whenever one of yous are ready to start up the open hour here, I will start the clock with your voice. And again, thank you both.
Tomahawk, I agree with you that it's possible for somebody to succeed against all odds, right? And in fact, I encourage that kind of thought process. I think it is important to be like, hey, I can do it. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Okay. But that doesn't rebut whether or not that there are systems that were designed or that exist today that pushed down minorities, right?
What? I guess I would ask at this point, what system would it be that you would be talking about?
So I brought up as an example redlining laws of the past. Mm-hmm. I understand redlining is illegal now. However, the rippling effects of redlining are pervasive even to this day. And the fact is right now, there don't actually exist any redistributive laws in rich and affluent areas, putting their property taxes towards their local education. I think there's only 3 states that have a progressive system for that, where they have distributive laws. A majority of states still, the entire education system is funded off of property taxes and so if whatever the value of the houses in that local location will be, that's how much money actually gets raised to those schools. And so if the value of the houses are lower, that would mean people that grow up in specific zip codes would live a fundamentally worse off education all the way from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. Don't you think that would negatively impact your educational attainment?
It could, but would that stop you? Would that stop a particular family who happens to live in that area from sending their child out to a different area at that point, to a different school that would potentially be of higher standing, as it were, because I
Hold
could
on.
see, because I've seen there are plenty of families, there are plenty of schools, there are plenty of schools that accept people from poorer areas that have those sort of progressive policies baked into them, where they have the resources and then extend programs that would and have programs that would extend their that would extend their acceptances, so to speak. That's not the word I want, but that would extend acceptances to people of poorer areas, to kids of poorer areas, to give them that education, to give them that opportunity. So one could say redlining has an effect. One could say a redlining has an effect, but it doesn't really have an effect at that point, when there are plenty of schools that extend their resources, that extend their enrollment. That's the word, enrollment to people of poorer areas.
What you're talking about right now is literally DEI. Are you in favor of DEI?
No, that's not DEI. When
it's literally what
didn't-
DEI
no,
is. But beside that point, you said that it could. Redlining could do that. I mean, it doesn't take a brainiac to realize places of poorer socioeconomic status, the house values are lower, right?
Sure, but
Which
what would
means
that have
that
to
there's
do
less money that goes to the schools from K through 12 education, right?
Where's the race in that, though? Where would the race? That's just, you're just
You don't
describing
need
poorer
to.
areas.
It requires zero racist actors. I'm just
So-
explaining to you the system on how that happens. I'm not
But
saying black people
but
can't get
the
ahead.
prompt itself is
I'm not
racism.
Yeah, the question is whether or not
the
systemic.
system itself is only goes against what essentially is just poor neighborhoods. That has nothing to do, like you said, it has nothing to do with race. At that
But
point,
you understand that
it's not-
minorities
it's
were
not-
physically pushed to these locations in the past. And when you go to
In the
poor
past- in the
socioeconomic
past.
condition areas throughout the country in the United States, it's overwhelmingly minorities.
But that was, but again, that was
In
the past.
2025, that's the case.
Where does that say in 2025 at this point?
What I'm saying,
'Cause
if you look at places that have poor socioeconomic condition status, it is
which
overwhelmingly
includes
minorities
black and
throughout the
white,
United States.
which includes black and
But it's
white
overwhelmingly
communities.
black.
But there's still white communities that suffer from the same thing, which is why
That
we
does.
have
That's not a
Trump's
rebuttal.
opportunities.
That's not a rebuttal.
Hmm?
You're acknowledging
is.
that it does exist, and then you're
But-
saying, but also this other thing. You're not debunking the clear systemic racism there. You're just saying, but
Just-
also
just-
this thing.
You said poor neighbor. The premise behind your argument is that it affects poorer neighborhoods. Poor
Yes.
isn't black. It's just poor.
Okay, so if I showed you that black families fundamentally are poorer than
How would
white
they be-
families by like a long shot, you would concede this argument knowing that predominantly black people have been pushed down in society.
in the past, sure,
No,
but you can't really
not
say-
in the past. 2025.
you would have-
Currently,
you would
right
need to-
now, black families have a lot less money than white families. Period.
But it doesn't. I wouldn't say that.
All right. Why do you think that is then?
Hmm?
Why do you think that is? I think it's because of systemic racism of the past. Redlining laws that reduce equity stake. When you have lower value houses, you can't actually, and the fact that they have been denied loans throughout the 60s and even upwards into the 70s. And even today, where we exhibit racist policies, even upwards into 2025, where banks are being caught discriminating against minorities because they considered loans to be too high risk simply for their skin color. That would be an example of systemic racism. So I'm asking you, why do you think that black families are poorer on average than white families?
They shoot. Should be a slam dunk, but they were that has nothing to do with the fact that that poor areas don't just contain black people. There are still
That wasn't
those
an
same
answer to my
those
question.
right, but that's not when your argument is talking about the fact that poorer areas are affected by these redlining policies. It doesn't matter whether or not that it happens to be black or happens to overwhelmingly be black or anything. If you come from a poor neighborhood and it shows on the map that you came from a poor neighborhood, you would be you a banker can look at that data and determine whether or not you would be a safe investment for you to get a loan from. Whites are denied in much of this. Whites would be denied in a similar situation as a
So I'm
black
not
person
saying
would
that
at that
white
point.
families can't be denied a loan. I'm not
If
saying
they
that
come
there
from a poor
aren't
area,
poor
they
white.
would
I'm
be
not.
looked
Yeah,
at. They
I'm
would
not
be
saying
looked
that
at
there aren't poor
similarly
white
as a
families.
black family in that sense.
I agree
So
with you.
it's not.
I'm not
it
saying
has
that there
nothing
aren't
to do
poor
with
white family or rich black families. Both of those exist. The question is not whether or not that there are poor black or rich black families as a rebuttal, or if there are poor white families. The question is whether or not that there exist systemic inequities, systemic racism, as in systems that result in racist outcomes in the United States. Given the fact, I mean, I still don't have an answer to why is it that why are black families poorer than white families by like a long shot in the United States?
I wouldn't consider that to be a question that pertains to the topic at hand, because the system itself that you're describing affects poor areas, affects poor people, and poor people come in many different races. And you want to talk about you want to mention redlining, but it adversely affects if it only adversely affects poorer people, there are poor people of any race. And so you can't exactly say that as a system that would disproportionately affect black people, when in this day and age anyone with bad credit or anyone that comes from a poor area will simply be denied on the basis of the fact that they come from a poor area and they can't be trusted to be able to pay back the money that the bank is loaning them. So you can't use redlining as an excuse in the sense that, there's happens to be more black people that live in these poorer neighborhoods. Anyone of a poor neighborhood would simply be denied a loan because they can't be trusted to pay back the loan that the bank would be giving them. And so
why can't they be trusted to pay back the loan?
Because they're poor. Because they're poor and they don't have the.
And why are they poor?
And
why are they poor?
They don't have the money at that point.
Why are they poor?
They don't have. Why are they poor? Because
why don't they have the money?
Because they're poor. They're poor. I don't know what else to say. They're poor people, so they don't have the money to be able to. They don't have the capital. They don't have the capital. They don't have the wealth to be able to show to a bank with a history of paying back loans that they are able to pay back loans. That's not a racism thing.
Let me
That's
ask
just
you
a
this.
system. That's not a racism thing.
Let me ask you this. Is Brookings.edu a valid source to you?
I don't know what that is.
It's here. I'll pull it up. What is Brookings.edu? Give me a moment. It is a website for the Brookings Institution, a highly influential, independent, nonpartisan American think tank in Washington, D.C. that conducts research on, provides analysis for public policy and economics, governance, and foreign policy, and improve government and policy at a local, national, and global levels. It was founded in 1916, and it is known for its rigorous, evidence-based work, bridging scholarship and policy making and by offering practical solutions and insights on complex challenges, serving a key resource on decision makers and the public. So I'm asking you, is Brookings.edu a valid source to you?
I mean, it could be, but what does that have to do with what does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Give me a moment. I also have to share it on my own. Give me a moment. Where's my Chrome? Do you see it?
It'll just depend on what. Okay.
All right. Hold on. Just give me a quick second. I apologize. Even when Black people have advanced degrees, own their home, have high-paying jobs, and engage in other behaviors associated with asset building, their wealth is typically much lower than their white peers. Individual-level factors are simply not the explanation for difference in the economic fortunes of Black and white people. Instead, the racial wealth gap should be recognized as a consequence of discrimination, public and private, throughout American history and continuing to this day. Nearly 250 years of slavery were followed by a century of Jim Crow segregation and economic exploitation reinforced by state-sanctioned violence. Until the 20th century, Black people were excluded from public programs to educate in home ownership and higher education. Racial inequality persists in our contemporary, putatively colorblind system. Due to discrimination, Black people receive lower valuations on their homes and earn less money in comparison to white people performing the same work. Biases in public investment and criminal justice leave Black communities simultaneously underserved and over-policed, and the civil rights violations also have serious economic consequences. Black people in America have been systemically stripped of the wealth that they have produced. Only a transformative national agenda can address the racial wealth gap, because the disparity of the project of societal racism compounded over generations. This is the Brookings.edu providing you this information. Do you find this to be adequate?
I would need to see like what actual data that they have that they would be saying that, because that sounds like an editorial. That sounds like an editorial or an opinion piece that basically is a summary of something that they may.
I posted the link.
They may have found.
The research is referring to closing the racial wealth gap requiring heavy progressive taxation of wealth. And so I once again, like, I know why that there exists a substantial wealth difference between white and Black families. And the reason why is because of systemic racism. And it is pervasive even to this day, considering that Black families fundamentally have lower wealth than that of their white family counterparts. It makes sense because throughout the 20th century, whites were able to establish themselves a semblance of security, being able to establish their own homes, which means to build up equity, which increases their overall wealth. And it was that was not the case for Black Americans in the United States. So I know what causes the increase in wealth. I mean, imagine if you had, say, $20,000 lying around for you to go to college, as opposed to most Black Americans, which did not receive that in order to go to college. But that's actually relatively common among their white counterparts.
How would you be able to show the fact that these quote unquote white neighborhoods receive these sort of $20,000 handouts? And I also
I'm saying like when you have like your equity taken care of, you have a high equity. You often spend time, will save your money, and you're able to, say, invest your money into stocks or be able to grow your wealth even further. Whereas Black people were systemically pushed down and prevented being able to own homes, and then forced and pushed into areas that of low socioeconomic status, fundamentally all throughout the 20th century. It doesn't surprise me that white people tend to have more generational wealth than that of their Black counterparts. That's true.
I wish I through what means would these sort of systems be showcased that just because Black people are basically who they are, they all of a sudden they're not able to get the resources necessary, even though you have
it's not because of who they are. I think Black people are perfectly capable of investing and purchasing homes if given the chance. But I don't believe that they have been given, not throughout the 20th century, they were not. Throughout the 20th century, they were not. And so I'm glad that we're now in the 21st century where now we have that opportunity. But the point is that they have a lower socioeconomic status that exists. It is pervasive even to this day. That would be an example of systemic racism. This is why I argue in favor of DEI policies, for example. But I mean, you have to acknowledge that this exists.
You would have to, for that to exist, for these things to have taken hold, you're basically the solutions that you're talking about is basically just taking from the rich, giving to the poor. But it's like for DEI to take hold in that way, you're not really giving Black people a chance to a real chance to give them any sort of opportunity, the opportunity to do so. You're giving them handouts, which doesn't teach them how to better themselves. You have things like what they called Black Wall Street back in I want to say the 40s or 50s. I don't remember.
Which was burned down by white people.
And why? And you had Jews.
White people burned it down, didn't they? They didn't like that Black people were making money, and so they burned it down to the ground.
So
white people did that.
Yeah, white people did that, but you had, and I would say to that end, there were other ethnicities that went through similar purges, and yet they built themselves back up.
I'm not saying that Black people aren't perfectly
you have Asians
capable.
Being the most. Yeah. Even being more wealthy than Blacks, and yet they're not targeted. B, still
they weren't targeted at the same level of Black people.
And
but
yet they are still
just to
thriving.
point out, right?
And yet they're still thriving.
Yeah, they weren't targeted as bad as Black people. So yes, they thrive better than Black people. But regardless of the fact, it doesn't matter who you are, white, Black, brown, whatever. If you have a long history of being pushed down and not being able to establish equity, then that would mean systemic racism does exist. So would you say in the 20th century, Black people were pushed down, right? You would agree with that.
Century, and I would say in the 20th century.
Okay, and so there exist those rippling effects today.
When everybody has access to those same resources.
That's great, but they still have the systemic inequality. It's there. Household income for Black Americans comparison to white Americans, it's literally like double in difference.
That live in various conditions, right, yet everybody still has access and can go to and partake in anywhere that they would like to. And it's just the fact that they are allowed to, and the fact that they have the opportunity to through all of that, doesn't mean that that systemic racism could truly exist, because at that point it's not the fact that it's not the systems that are keeping them down. It's at this point their own people. It's not what I want to say, but it is in the ballpark of what I want, what I'm trying to get for, what I'm trying to go for. And it's like you talk about how all of these people are still, suffering from the effects. We have had so many different examples of people making it, and yet those aren't the ones that are pushed in culture, that are pushed as examples of people as those who are making it. So the fact that people are able to, those races are still able to thrive today, and they still have the ability to thrive today. It can't really. It's not systemic. It's just there's a culture issue that's happening at that point. It's a culture thing, and not systems that are in place, because those systems were in a sense taken out, and it's a like I said, it's a culture thing. We would need to teach ourselves and teach others that they are able to do it, which is the whole point of how education over the 30 years after the passing of the Civil Rights Act, you had schools teaching kids to not look at your own neighbor, at your own classmates, through the color of their skin, but simply the fact that everybody is an American at this point.
So I'm not against helping yourselves. I'm not against trying to improve yourself, and that I'm also not against the idea that you can help yourselves. That does not mean, though, that systemic racism does not exist. It certainly does. And I would like to share my screen if you can share it for me. Speakeazy. So the U.S. Census Bureau released its annual report on income in the United States. According to the data in the report, the median income of Black households in the United States in 2024 was $56,020, down slightly from 2023. The median income figure shows the point where half of all families earn below the level and half earned above this level. For non-Hispanic white households in 2024, the median income figure was $92,530, up 1.3% from 2023. So we know for a fact Black households make less.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you one more time. Why? Do you think that that's just like what? Culture?
Well,
like a
just
bad
because
culture? What is that?
I would say I would chalk that up. I would chalk that up to culture, but just because
What culture causes you to
just
make 56,000 as opposed to 92,000?
one where the people of your own ilk are essentially telling you that you can't do it yourself.
So
which
because
you
other
have-
people
which-
are saying that you can't do it, that's why
it's
you make
often our own
52,000?
people. The crab, it's a crab bucket mentality that through in Black neighborhoods and Black communities where we're always having to take from others. We're always having to ask for.
So what is that?
essentially
Hold on,
scraps.
that crab
And-
bucket, but what causes Black people to have that crab bucket mentality? I agree with you that does exist. I'm simply saying what I believe the cause of that is due to systemic racism of the past.
I mean,
but
you
I'm
say
curious
this
as to
of
what you
of
think the
past,
cause
but
is.
I mean, it's ingrained, but there are several other communities, several other races. And I look to Asians as like the quintessential example here, where they faced persecution themselves, and yet they are still thriving. They're one of the most.
Do you think
one of the
Asians
most
suffered as
affluent-
bad as Black Americans in the
It doesn't
United
matter
States?
whether they suffered as bad; they still suffered. And
I'm
yet
just
they
saying
were
that
able
what
to-
Asians weren't pushed down anywhere close to as bad as
It
Black
doesn't- but
Americans.
th-
So it doesn't
at this
surprise
point,
me
this
that
is-
you
it's not
see a
talking
sudden
about scale.
change
It's not
in the wealth
scale.
disparity.
It's not scale in how bad someone was pushed down. The fact that they were still pushed down, but still came together as a community, as a race, and became one of the most affluent ethnicities in America, even more so than white people, means that it's not so much a systemic thing, but a culture thing within themselves.
But culture is
And
created.
At this point,
Do you agree that culture is created by environment? Where does culture come from? I think it's from environment. Your environment is what
What do you mean
inspires
by
culture.
environment? What do you mean by
external
environment?
sense stimuli, as in you look out and you look at the rocks and the trees and the rivers and the things around you, and you establish culture around the things that are around you.
So the rocks and the trees, those.
I'm just saying things around you. In
it's
the
the-
case of urban civilization, it would be the buildings, the concrete.
Okay,
I'm
so
just being flowery with my language.
everyone lives around a building. Everyone lives
Yeah,
lives in towns.
But
and stuff
Black
like
people
that.
were
So
pushed into areas of poor
How?
socioeconomic status. Redlining.
through what means? Through what means
Redlining.
were they pushed?
Redlinings and being denied access to
gerrymandering?
loans,
the fa-
and HOAs that would specifically look at a person's skin color and say, you're not fit for this white group, even though you have the money to be here. That's what.
So it wouldn't be things like gerrymandering where they would
Gerrymandering has to do with voting, not whether or not a person is denied access to a house. The problem is like Black people, they could, for example, establish loans, and they were able to they had the money, but they physically were barred access to things like loans and being able to go access higher affluent white neighborhoods throughout the 20th century. And because the equity overall is lower,
I
that would mean
just
socioeconomic
remembered
status is
something.
lower. That's
I just-
that's what
I
systemic
just-
racism is.
It can't. Oh, I just remembered something because we talked about Black Wall Street and the black banks, and there in those communities of affluent blacks that were propping up and then supposedly burned down. Well, during that time, I forgot exactly where, but I remember seeing the black banks at the time that were building up all this credit, that were building themselves to be, to compete against the whites of that era. Those same black banks would look at poor folk, usually those same black people, and they would deny them those same loans that you're talking about. Why would if systemic racism were to be as prevalent as you say that it is, even through the 20th century, but even till today, why would those same banks, those same black bankers, look at their own and not help them out and give them the loan that the whites would deny?
And then the Tulsa race massacre happened.
But they didn't, though. They would look at
no,
those
but they
same,
were.
they
They were
same,
actively the
those
Black Wall
bankers
Street
looked
was
at their own
empirically helping
people. They
Black
looked at their own-
Americans, and it
you would have
showed
these same
that
black
blacks are
bankers
perfectly
today.
that
Look
black
at those
people.
same
Oh my
black-
goodness!
Hold up,
on.
Tomahawk. Let
Sorry, go
Amender
ahead.
finish what
And
he
it
was
said
saying there.
that black people were perfectly capable of being able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and it was white people that pushed that down. So here, take a look. Here's another screen share.
Where did that-
So the Tulsa Race Massacre was a 2-day-long white supremacist terrorist massacre that took place in Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma in the United States between the May 31st and June 1st of 1921. Mobs of white residents, some of whom have been appointed as deputies and armed by city government officials, attacked black residents and destroyed homes and businesses. This event is considered one of the worst incidents of racial violence in American history. The attackers burned and destroyed more than 35 square blocks of the neighborhood, at the time one of the wealthiest black communities in the United States, colloquially known as Black Wall Street. And you're sitting there telling me that systemic racism does not exist. There we have an instance of black people pulling themselves up by their bootstraps empirically, and they can do it. And I love that they're doing it. And then white people said, fuck that. We don't want black people to be equal to white people. And they pushed them down. That's an example. The Black Wall Street is a perfect example of systemic racism that 100% existed throughout the 20th century. And it is the lack of being able to build up equity across the board for black Americans that results in systemic racism in 2025. That's true.
I know, because you
then what caused Black Wall Street to get burned down?
There are other races that have gone through something similar. I mean, you could look at
Not at the
Jews
level of
who
black people. Not at the level of black people.
Jews did not face that.
Jews
same
have a
amount of
great deal of
persecution.
equity because of usury being
But they
not
did
considered
not
a
have
sin
their
throughout
shit-
the
but they did
16th
not have their
century.
shit burned
They had
down
plenty
throughout
of
the
money.
centuries,
White
throughout the
people had,
millennium.
or Jews had plenty of money among their families in comparison to black people.
But
It's
they
not
didn't
even
have-
comparable.
They haven't faced that same persecution. They haven't faced.
They have
those
faced the same
burning- those
persecution, but
burnings
they have had
from
access to
other
higher levels of
groups.
equity.
And didn't bring themselves together. The whole reason we haven't brought ourselves, the whole reason we haven't, as a race, haven't brought ourselves, is more so the fact that we keep telling ourselves that we're not good enough.
What would you
even
say
though
the
we
number
are,
one?
even though
what
we
i-
had the civil rights movement to tell us that we were.
What is the
good
number
enough.
one reason that pulls somebody out of poverty? Would you say?
Usually determination.
Determination.
They are. Well, determination in the form.
Are you aware of a concept called
perseverance.
compounding interest?
compounding interest?
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard of it. Yes.
Okay, so that means the more money you have, the more amount of money you can gain in the future as a multiplier, right?
Okay. Anyone
So if you
can have
start off
access
with
to
less
this.
money, then you have a lower probability of being able to make more money.
But
right?
that doesn't stop you from.
And the
being
number
able
one
to
thing-
make that
but
money.
the number one
you can
thing-
still make that money. You can.
I'm not saying you can't make the money. I'm not saying you can't make money. I've already
and
addressed
making $1 million
this.
out of it.
I am not saying you can't make money or that you can't have a successful business or that black people can't help themselves. They can. I agree with you. They can. And I think that's a really good mentality to have. That doesn't revoke whether or not systemic racism exists. You seem to be completely not acknowledging the concepts such as equity and how people get pushed down on the basis of not having enough equity, or even if they did have enough equity, still being pushed out of society simply for their skin color. That's true.
I mean, at this point, you're just talking about the fact you're bringing up systemic racism in the form that when you just because they happen to be, just because this is the tired excuse, just because that they are black and just because they come from a less affluent neighborhood or they don't have enough equity doesn't mean that they can't. You're basically suggesting
Holy
that
crap.
because
I've explained it. I'm not saying you can't. For the 10th time, I'm telling you, I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying that there exist systems that make it harder. That's true.
So harder doesn't mean that it wouldn't be possible, and the fact that it still is,
and the fact that it was done specifically for because a person was black. That's true. We know that to be the case. There is so many examples of that. I'm actually astonished that you even brought up Black Wall Street. It is one of the best examples of it's not even systemic racism. It's just racism. And then it results in systemic outcomes, which means less equity for people throughout the 20th century.
What system came out of that not crisis, but tragedy.
Being denied access to loans, being denied access to equity.
People loans too. Black people
that's beside that. I'm not saying that. Hold on. How many throughout the 20th century? You're telling me that there was a bunch of black people running banks? Come on, seriously?
I mean, that's what happened. That's what happened when you were talking.
Yeah, and then white supremacists came and burned it down because they thought that you were inferior.
But the thing is, those same bankers looked at being poor isn't. But that's the thing is, all of that was leading up to say that being poor isn't racist. That being poor is just being poor.
But if it was done specifically on the basis of race and ensured people's poverty, then it would be. You would have to. It again. It's all about outcome. Intent doesn't matter, right? What you have is, once again, I'm talking about a system that is built decades ago with openly racist rules. Even if you removed the racist language later, the effects still persisted. Race was barred from owning property in certain areas. Homeowners Association specifically restricted minorities in predominantly white neighborhoods, as well as redlining laws preventing black people access to higher equity. Property ownership is the main way wealth is accumulated in the United States. That's true. Wealth determines the schools you go to, the neighborhoods you live in, the credit access you have to, as well as political power. If you do not have access to these neighborhoods and you do not have access to these homes, then the systemic racism that causes a person to have lower socioeconomic conditions is what happens. We know this to be the case.
Be a race at this point? So would corporations themselves be a race? Like corporations like BlackRock, Vanguard? Because those are the ones that are truly owning the homes these days. Those would be the ones that are owning the homes these days. Everybody's being put into rental properties, and these less affluent neighborhoods are being either gobbled up by corporations at this point.
I agree with you. That is also a problem. And I would argue, that has nothing to do whether or not that we should divest corporations the ability to use homes as their personal investment assets is a separate discussion as to whether or not systemic racism exists. If you're willing to acknowledge that race was barred or black people were barred from owning properties in certain areas through HOAs, as well as predominantly white neighborhoods and redlining laws, if you're willing to acknowledge that, and that property ownership is the main way wealth is...
concede that.
Okay,
I can concede
so then
that
would you
for
also
it
agree that
happening at the time? At the time, we don't.
But that's still pervasive today, considering when you look at household wealth of Black Americans compared to white Americans, it is almost double. White Americans, on average, make double what a Black American does.
Household wealth is not indicative of whether, or is not truly indicative of whether or not one can take out a loan. Again, you can look at those. You can look at the. You say white
what
on average? Yeah, because those still. You still talk.
Why don't you help me out? I have two households. One and both of them want to take out a loan. Right.
Okay.
One of them shows a household wealth of 109,000, and the other one shows a household wealth of 56,000. Which one do you think is going to get access to a bigger loan?
It would be the 109,000.
Okay, so then the predominantly white household would be the one getting the better loan.
You never mentioned race in that entire scenario there.
So when I said the 109,000, that's the average for white homeowners. For Black households, it's half that. It's 56,000.
But again, you can look at that same.
So you're saying a loan doesn't get affected? Of course it does. You make less money. If you make less money, then you get a lower loan.
You can look at that same scenario and switch the races, and you would still have.
I'm not saying that there aren't poor white people or rich Black people. That does exist. I'm talking about the overall, the system, if you will, the systemic thing that prevents Black people access to higher equity.
Greedy banks will look at those same numbers and would look at those same numbers and we'll take the one of higher note. That's why the scenario that you brought up with that hypothetical scenario, you can switch the races and the banks would still look at the $106,000 home and go, those people are better than the $56,000 income one. It doesn't matter whether these are Black or white households.
In 2025, I agree with you. That's correct. That's correct. If you have, if you show a great deal of equity, you likely have access to better loans. I'm not disagreeing with that. But the question is whether or not that a system of inequality exists, which we can observe that it does overall, which means that systemic racism does exist.
When a bank looks at someone's equity or capital when they are about to give out a loan, what is the primary thing that they look for?
Assets.
Their
equity.
Look for assets. So if a Black person has loads of assets, they have the shares, they have the shares, they have the money, they have the income necessary to show that they are, and in this day and age is very prominent. It is very prominent. And they don't, and they see, and they look at another guy. This guy would be white or Asian, and they have less assets. They have basically no assets, and they look at those.
And then they don't get a loan because they're poor, right? And they don't get a loan because they're poor, right?
Because they're poor. But
on average, are Black people poorer than white people?
This is a white poor person.
Hold on, one more time. No,
they
are Black people poorer than white people?
That doesn't mean that the system is inherently racist.
That is
when the
literally
banks hold on. When the banks look at that's the whole thing. I switched the scenario to where the white person, the one that is less than. The white person is the guy that has less equity, that has less assets, and yet the bank will look at that. The bank will look at the one with more equity, with more assets, and will be
whether or not the systemic racism does exist. I'm not saying that there aren't rich Black people. Once again, for the upteenth time,
of the Black person
for the upteenth time, I am not saying Black people can't be rich.
But you are saying that
No,
because
I'm
they're
not.
black, they have
I'm
a
saying that they
larger
have a
propensity for being-
disadvantage because of systemic inequality. That's true.
Not when the banks are just going to look at the assets at hand and just be
And
like,
if
oh,
you
well,
have
these
lower
are the-"
assets on average, that means that you get less money.
but oh my goodness.
Listen, Tomahawk, I don't think you're a bad guy. I really don't. I think, listen, I used to be hardcore libertarian. I was all about that. Hey, pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of guy. I'm 100% with you. Even to this day, as like a hardcore, just social, woke, progressive, liberal, soy boy, right? Even to this day, I still believe in that pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And I think that's a great mentality to have.
You want to take assets from the more affluent and give it to. And
Fuck
basically-
yeah, because I think white people fucked over black people, and I think white people should go out of their way to help out people, because I believe rising tides lift all boats. If people are genuinely poor because of socioeconomic inequality of the past, and that they can't pull themselves up because they get consistently denied access to education
How would you
because they're too
reconcile the
poor,
poor whites
I
in
would
this
go,
area that
hey,
didn't
let's
have that same
fix that.
affluence?
100%. Because listen, let me ask you
How
this,
would you
right?
reconcile with the poor whites that did not go through all of that, though? That did not have this affluence that you're talking about. That didn't have all of these assets. How
That's
would you...
well, then I would address having social safety nets for them as well. I don't believe a person can be a valuable economic. Hold on, I don't believe. But it is overwhelmingly predominantly there for black people. It is overwhelmingly predominantly pervasive among black people. That's true because of systemic racism that has existed in the past, and it is pervasive to this day.
Just because it's predominant for black people doesn't mean that they don't have. That just doesn't mean that the resources aren't there for them to be able.
I'm not
to
saying there
succeed.
aren't resources. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be resources. But the question is whether or not systemic racism exists. It does.
It could not, because a bank would look at those assets and would just go based off of those assets, especially in this day and age when everyone is told that racism is bad.
I agree. Racism bad.
That you can't.
But again, it doesn't require a single racist actor. You'll notice that I was able to predicate and show that, hey, check out this system, and then I broke it down step by step. Hey, take a look at this. 20th century redlining laws resulting in lower equity. People were pushed off into lower socioeconomic locations, which then results in lower educational attainment. K through 12 education is degraded among minorities than it is for white affluent people. Heck, it gets even worse than that. Did you know that lead poisoning increases aggression, and that it also decreases your ability in educational attainment as well? And did you know that overwhelmingly minorities are the ones where they place lead factories in? Did you know that they place battery factories today in around black neighborhoods and away from white neighborhoods?
Like where?
All throughout the United States. I could give you examples of one that exists in Florida, for example, but it does exist. You can Google this. I'm not making this up when I'm showing you. If you have an excess amount of lead in the air, that would increase aggression and lower socioeconomic status, because they knew that they didn't want to negatively affect white people, but they didn't give a fuck about black people. That's another example of systemic racism.
Where's the plant? Like you say that
I could give you examples of plants that show up in low socioeconomic status that increase lead concentrations. I can show you that. Hold on. All right.
And just while he's pulling that up, let me remind the chat, you can find both the debaters in the description, okay? It wasn't there at the starting. Someone had to remind me, so refresh. If you've been here from the start, you'll see it there.
All right, so here's another example. Racial segregation makes consequences of lead exposure worse. Racial segregation and lead exposure amplified each other's detrimental effects on reading scores in children. The findings could guide interventions aimed at improving children's cognitive development. Racial residential segregation, in which racial or ethnic groups live in separate, unequal neighborhoods, tend to concentrate factors that contribute to racial disparities in health. These include socioeconomic and environmental stressors. Racial residential segregation is associated with different death rates, pregnancy outcomes, and chronic diseases. Researchers have been exploring the relationship between racial residential segregation and children's cognitive development. Lead exposure is known to cause cognitive and developmental problems in children. Kids can be exposed to lead via lead-based paint, lead pipes, or proximity of sources like lead pollution. These factors tend to be more prevalent in poor neighborhoods, but few, if any, studies have evaluated the complicated relationships between residential segregation, lead exposure, and cognitive development. An NIH-funded research team in Duke University, Rice University, and the University of Notre Dame linked detailed birth records with lead screening and standardization testing data in almost 26,000 children in North Carolina. The children were all born in the year 2000. Standardized testing occurred 10 to 11 years later at the end of fourth grade. The researchers also developed a measure of racial residential segregation in different areas. Results appeared Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in August 23 of 2022. Overall, non-Hispanic black children had higher median blood levels of non-Hispanic white children. More than 80% of the black children experienced economic disadvantage. Black children also lived in areas with greater racial residential segregation than white children, both at birth and at the time of standardized testing. Reading scores declined with higher levels of either blood lead or racial residential segregation at the time of testing. How can it be any clearer? How to make it any clearer?
But where are these factories? Where are they?
What do you mean? I just gave you an example. They're literally measuring it. Oh my God.
You showed an edit. It's not an editorial. What?
No, this is an NIH discovered paper. This is literally from the National Institute of Health.
It does not show where.
It was specifically in North Carolina. I mean, if you want the individual studies, I can give you the exact locations of the lead concentrations, in which case we could discuss that. But you realize that this is empirically verifiable. Do you understand?
No, because because you're talking as man. But
I don't know what else to say. I mean, just
talking like residential neighborhoods. It's not like those areas, those majority black neighborhoods are at this point I don't know where I'm
I don't have anything else to say. I feel like I've laid my case, and I think it is empirically verifiable. It is there. I do believe that systemic racism exists to this day, and I've exhibited multiple cases, even in the state of 2025. I'm able to exhibit empirically that these things exist. Whether or not you're willing to acknowledge its existence is independent.
None of the sources that you showed are any cases that happen in 2025, and
yes, it is.
No,
and I mean, because it's still there. It's still there. and secondly, you could say all day long that it doesn't exist. I believe it does exist, and I think I want there to be as many opportunities for as many people as possible. And I believe that rising tides lift all boats. And I would hate the idea that it's like, I have, for example, let's say a black child that is the next Einstein, that because of excess lead exposure, all of a sudden is no longer the next Einstein, but is the next remedial education student, because we had decided to put increased lead concentrations in predominantly poor black neighborhoods. I believe that if there are more people that are productive in society, this benefits everybody, including white people. So I believe that it is up to everybody to assist people that are in poor socioeconomic conditions to remove systemic racism. But if you can't even acknowledge it exists, we got a lot of work ahead of us.
Because you're talking, because you say these things where it's these all encompassing terms like poor and affluent, where the words themselves don't indicate that there is a racial attachment to it. The only time that you put a racial attachment to it is when you yourself add a racial attachment to it. And
I do not need to. It's all about outcomes. It does not require a racist actor. I've already explained that.
It does not require.
That's correct. Systemic racism does not require a racist actor in order for it to exist. It's a system that results in racist outcomes. Right? Increased lead exposure among children, predominantly black populations, would be an instance of a systemic issue that needs to be addressed because it leads to a racist outcome. It literally makes people dumber. Lead exposure makes people dumber.
Same lead factories would be put in predominantly white neighborhoods. Do you think that that
white people would get dumber? Yep, that's exactly how that works. Exactly, you got it. In fact, we had an increase of lead exposure throughout the globe, which actually did increase violent acts throughout the globe because we had placed lead in our gasoline, and it took pushbacks against with the United States' assistance, the government, to remove lead from gas. It was probably one of the worst instances. And then boom, all of a sudden, when they removed lead from gas, violent crime rates went way down, and had consistently been going down since.
And that is an instance against systemic racism, because at that point you were basically taking an element out of a fuel. You're taking an element out that was clearly affecting the general populace, and thus it benefited everyone. So where would the racism be in something like that?
Because when you place factories and lead paint in predominantly poor areas, resulting in higher lead concentrations, which impact your reading performance and therefore your educational attainment, that leads to systemically racist outcomes, because that means black educational attainment is therefore reduced because they are in a predominantly black poor area.
And yet poor areas come in all colors at that point, and it's just
except it's predominantly minorities that are thrown into these areas.
Poor areas are
areas. Like, again, why is that the case? Like, it's a systemic racism that caused that to be the case.
Of itself is a non sequitur, because if you're gonna just talk about poor areas, again, poor areas happen and exist all over the country, and these systems that are designed against poorer neighborhoods affect anyone that is not affluent, and anyone that isn't affluent at that point. And so you can't exactly call it systemic as a system or systemic racism when it affects anyone of all races that happen to be in that.
Except now it's predominantly affecting black communities. That's true. Systemic racism is just a racial disparity that is produced and maintained by institution, laws, and policies and social systems. Even if nobody is intending to discriminate, there can be systems that result in that. lead exposure is a very good example of systemic racism because the disparity exists specifically between white and black Americans, where black Americans receive more lead exposure, which impacts their reading scores.
Is there actually are there actually more lead factories that are built and maintained in these black neighborhoods than
Yes.
there are in these white neighborhoods?
Yes.
Again, I would need to see them, and the article that you brought up says,
again, I brought up lead exposure.
Speaks about the effects of lead exposure.
Yeah, I'm
Those
just
are the
saying,
effects,
why
but
do you
they're not
think?
the-
Why do you think that?
But
Why?
those
why
are the effects, but not the actual locations that are.
well, I'm
actually
asking, like,
within
why is
those
it that
neighborhoods.
non-Hispanic black children had higher median blood lead levels than non-Hispanic white children? Why would that be the case? Where's the lead coming from? It's got to come from somewhere, right? It's not magicked into existence. It's got to come from somewhere.
But it has to come from somewhere. But you didn't
So if I
show
put
that in that
a lead
article.
factory-
The article just spoke about.
If I put a
the
lead
effects
factory
of lead.
in a black neighborhood, or there's more
Again,
lead paint in
I
black
could s-
neighborhoods than there are in white neighborhoods,
You could say again. You could say the same thing for white people. If you put lead factories.
yeah, but it's
or
not
lead paint in
predominantly white people
neighborhoods,
that
but
are
it's-
in predominantly poor areas.
But that's not a systemic thing. It's not. You
That
can
is
apply it
systemic.
to. You
That's
can
a
apply
system
it to other
That
races.
predominantly
You can
negatively
ap-
affects black people.
But you can. The fact that you can still apply it to these other races means that it's
Man.
not inherently a racist thing. It's
Yeah,
not
I don't know.
inherently a racist thing.
I don't think
just
anything can
because it
convince you, buddy.
just because it predominantly affects one race over the other. The whole point of the systemic racism thing is that it would have to show that these systems would not just disproportionate, but only truly affect and give advantage to one race over another, when all of these can be explained. All of these systems can be explained in more essentially classist society, in essentially classist terms between like rich, poor, affluent, not affluent, and whatever the opposite of affluent is. I'm mixing up on words, but it's not the fact that race that I wish I had more words. Holy shit. These systems aim to affect these are all encompassing systems that can be found all over the country, and therefore it's not a racist thing when it affects everyone. Just because it disproportionately affects does not mean that there isn't an effect doesn't mean that doesn't affect other races in a similar way who happen to be in that same class.
Once again, I'm not telling you that there are not poor white children or that there aren't black rich people. That this doesn't remove the argument at all. Anyway, it looks like we're out of time.
It does, yeah.
All right, that will wrap up the open floor back and forth. Again, excellent exchanges from both sides tonight. We're now going to enter into the closing statements here. Quick reminder to you guys in the live chat here: the live Q&A is there if you guys want to put your questions in there for either debater. Make sure you drop them in now, and because we're going to get into the Q&A right after this. But remember, the super chats, PayPals, and Cash App questions still take priority. So if those fill up the full 30 minutes, not all of the free chat questions will make it through. So if there's something you really want guaranteed, put it through one of the priority options. With that being said, we're going to move into closings where each debater gets 5 minutes to make their final case. We'll start it off here with first amender so that you can, so Tomahawk, you could have the last word. So first amender, whenever you are ready, I will start up the timer with your voice.
This is the conclusion, yes?
Yeah, closing statements, yeah.
Okay. reading test scores had declined with higher levels of either blood lead or racial segregation and segregation at the time of testing. The researchers also found that blood lead levels of residential segregation interacted to affect reading test scores among Black children. For those with low blood lead levels, test scores were not affected by racial residential segregation. However, among those with higher blood lead levels, test scores decreased as racial residential segregation increased. This effect became more marked as blood lead levels increased. When I bring up that it is predominant that in poor socioeconomic conditions that there is in fact increased amounts of lead, and that overall, since redlining had occurred throughout the 20th century, Black people had consistently been pushed down and pushed aside into lower socioeconomic conditions, which would predominantly affect additional lead concentration levels, which further reduces educational attainment. It is also true that since property taxes are garnered by the value of a specific piece of property, poor areas fundamentally has less money to go to schools. This means fundamentally white affluent areas tend to have a higher socioeconomic attainment, and and Black students and predominantly minority and poor areas have lower educational attainment. This once again requires zero racist actors. I'm not talking about a person that is wringing their hands together and saying, oh, how do I infect all the Black children with the lead exposure? No, it is likely because of the way that things had been built in the past, requiring not a single racist actor, but upon discovery in more wealthy areas, they likely removed the lead paint. They removed the lead exposure in rich affluent areas. Meanwhile, poor areas were often neglected, which would result in further systemic discrimination. I believe that this has been explained and would show that systemic racism to exist, once again, requiring not a single racist actor in order to reach racist outcomes. Higher educational attainment is associated with higher socioeconomic well-being. And if you don't get a decent shot from K through 12, the chances are not in your favor that you will be receiving a higher educational attainment. So understanding that, this is not saying that Black people cannot succeed. Certainly it is possible for Black people to succeed. But the point is that there do exist systems that are there, that 100% do exist. I can show empirically how they do exist. And my goal is to recognize that those exist and then seek to repair them. And with that, I concede the rest of my time.
All right. Thank you for that closing statement. And with that, we are going to hand it over to Tomahawk. Tomahawk, whenever you are ready for your closing statement, I will start the timer up with your voice.
Being poor isn't racist, and the systems that exist to keep poor people down aren't also themselves racist, since they affect more than just a singular race. You can bring up the fact that it disproportionately hurts. Disproportionately hurts a single demographic group over others. Doesn't discount the fact that it still affects those other groups, and thus it was and thus exists not through race in particular, but because those systems exist to keep down, say, poor people, for example. In this debate, this was basically a shown. You can have all the empirical evidence, empirical data, but when you come up with these various instances and examples of how Black people would be passed over, so to speak, you can instantly turn that that scenario around to putting a white person in the same scenario, especially in this day and age, and show that the same thing would happen to them. The point of the point of whether systemic racism exists in the United States or not isn't so much. You talk about outcomes. We talk about outcomes, but the outcomes are in a sense universal. Just because there's a scalar mode to it isn't the fact, not the fact, isn't the I don't know what the word would be, but isn't the factor that it is racist, but the factor that simply the system just exists to eat everyone. And for it to be inherently, the intent would matter in this case, but since the intent has no actor, no specific or explicit actor to it, it therefore can't really be racist, even though it can't be racist since it affects everyone. These are systems. They exist, especially in today's day and age, to affect everyone. And because of that, you can't really claim that the systems thereby are racist. Not good with rebuttals. For that, I will concede my time on that. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for that closing statement, and that will conclude the closing statements. Great work from both debaters tonight. Again, for everybody watching, okay, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, make sure you like the stream, subscribe to the channel, so you don't miss any of the debates we host here on the Swords of Reason. Okay, we run all kinds of matchups: political, cultural, social, philosophy, video games, everything. If there's a conversation worth clashing over, we bring it in the arena. And also, don't forget to subscribe to both tonight's debaters as well. Their links are in the description. Show them support, whether you agreed or disagreed. All right, it takes a lot more than you realize. Come up in front of a live audience and test their ideas. All right. So, and before I get to the before I start the timer for the chat Q&A, I usually ask one or two questions to each debater myself based on things I heard, arguments I want clarified, or things I just want repeated again. Even so, we're gonna start. I'll start here on the affirmative side. Based on for you, First Amender, based on the definition of systemic racism you gave, and if you want to say it again, that's no problem. What specific laws, policies, or institutions today best demonstrate that it still exists?
I would probably have to reference like some zoning law that probably places or allows there to be lead, increase amounts of lead or industrialized facilities that allow lead concentrations to be at a certain level in predominantly poor areas as opposed to wealthy ones. That would be a good example. But mostly at this point in 2025, it's mostly rippling effect. So it doesn't actually require a physical law to be there. It's just the fact that there have been laws in the past and are the effects of it are pervasive even today.
All right. And did you have anything for that, Tomahawk?
No, at the moment, no.
Okay,
I
no
wish I
worries.
did.
And then what I would ask for the second question for you, First Amanda, is how do you distinguish between like the disparities caused by the systemic racism versus those caused by cultural or some individual factor?
So cultural and individual factors, I think cultures and individuals are formed by your environment. And if the environment is poor, then you are more likely to have a poor culture or poor individual moral compass. Does that mean that there can't be somebody with a good moral compass, even despite all things? That's true. That can happen. But I'm saying if the probabilities are higher, then yeah, the culture will likely be poor.
All right. And then Tomahawk, did you have anything for that?
No.
All right. No worries. No worries. So my questions for you, Tomahawk, if racial disparities in areas like the income, policing, I thought incarceration would be brought up tonight. That
Right.
wasn't brought up, but like I know
wanted to, but I
this is a
couldn't.
talking point. Yeah. So like if they're not due to systemic racism, what do you believe the primary causes of this are?
I would look at those same DEI policies that were brought up by First Amender, in the fact that it's an optics thing. It's an optics thing where the whole issue behind talking about racism today is because racism is so bad, you don't want to look like a racist. You're going to the imperative is you want to you want to look good for essentially virtue signaling. You want to look good in those cases, so you're not going to essentially you're gonna sort of you're gonna go by the law and still quote unquote arrest them, but you're not going to really punish them because it's a bad look to be propagating that same sentiment of, well, black people get criminalized more under the system, sort of thing. That's what it is.
All right. And did you have anything for that, First Amender?
Nope.
All right. And then for the second question for you, what would you count as evidence that systemic racism does exist? Right? Like if such evidence were
Are you
present.
asking me?
No. Sorry, that's for Tomahawk.
Yeah, I was
So-
like, my whole thing was that.
Sorry, for Tomahawk, what would you count as evidence, like for you? Like, what would you accept as systemic racism does exist if such as evidence were present?
If such evidence were present, the actual evidence would be. It would culminate in a law of some kind. It would culminate in a law or justice decision like Plessy versus Ferguson, which led to the Jim Crow South. You know, things that would categorically be seen as, you know, this was made specifically because of some racist initiative, separate but equal, those sorts of things. We've had it in the past, we don't have it now. He talks about ripple effects, but if ripple effects are all that it really is, at some point the ripples stop. And what we have basically today is the ripples had stopped in like the late 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, and only started back up again around the time that Barack Obama was elected.
All right. And did you have anything for that, First Amender?
Therefore, what? Barack Obama should not have been elected in order to stop the
No.
ripples?
Barack Obama is simply the example to which basically given form towards the topic coming back up, because when
because black people get represented in presidency?
he was the first one, but whenever he
That's
would
so
have
weird.
whenever he would have his policies
God
stop,
damn it. It is such I
they
feel like
would
I'm in the
attribute
Twilight
it
Zone
to
where I
the
have to
fact
discuss
that the
this with a
Republicans
black
in the House
person
and-
as a white person. Like, it's just so strange. I don't know.
they would, the media narrative at the time when Barack Obama was having his policy stopped by the Senate and the House and whatnot, they would call it, oh, this is just the Republicans being racist, and you know, they just want to keep the black man down. You know, all of those old reasons for why black people couldn't advance, because Barack Obama couldn't do whatever he wanted, and the opposition was bringing up valid points such as this is going to affect us in a very negative way later. The exact words notwithstanding, it's going to be some, you know, an okay criticism, I'll just say, because I don't have the words. They would just say, "Well, no, you just don't like black people. You just don't like Barack Obama." So, and that was the constant narrative, when it really was not. And they had legitimate criticisms that were being brought up, but were dismissed because, well, you're just being racist, which is where we have all of this today.
All right.
No, yeah.
Oh.
That was it.
All right, no worries. All right, so we're gonna start the timer up and get into the Q&A here from the chat. Reminder for you guys in the chat: the super chats do take priority, and if they fill up the whole timer, we may not get to the other questions. So if you want to make sure it comes through, send it that way. But let's start up the timer here, and first thing we got is a gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much, Kokomo. I appreciate that big time. Bully Mom comes in for $10. Says, "You got this, our token Tomahawk. You got this, Tomahawk.
I
You got
appreciate
this."
it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You just got called a token.
And then we got another 5 from Bully Mom. Says, "Amender, what proof would you need to prove your position wrong? You have a black guy telling you, a white person, that it is wrong. More ADL studies?"
I think like if you have household income equaling much closer to white people, then I would venture to say systemic racism has been quashed.
So you're looking for a threshold. You're looking for
Yeah,
a
hell yeah,
threshold
hell yeah. I want there to be
basically, if
more
everything is
opportunity for
50
everybody. There's not enough opportunity for black people. Let's make the opportunity be there so that way they can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And it's not because of some stupid environmental or socioeconomic factor.
Even though we have the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that
That's correct.
basically just even that says that that's not happening anymore. We had that ratified.
But racist systems still do exist, as can be exhibited per median household incomes for black people versus white people.
All right. Our next one comes in. Member for 10 months. Let's go, Daniel. Thank you very much. I wonder where these 2 younglings' moms hide their elf on a shelf last night.
I don't know how old that they think I am, but I'm 36. I'm not a youngling. I provide the presents.
All right. $10 comes in from Original Vintage. You really think greedy banks won't take interest payments from minorities, especially if you think they are systematically racist and take advantage at every opportunity under your theory?
Yeah, they probably charge higher interest rates too. This only exacerbates my argument.
Okay, you didn't have nothing for that.
I guess my question in response would be like, why wouldn't they do that for Asians, since they're also
because they have higher socioeconomic status.
Okay, all right. So then we got $5 comes in from Dane. Says, it would be interesting to compare black poverty wealth with the lower 13% of the white population rather than the entirety of white population.
Very true. Very true.
It would be interesting to compare black poverty and wealth with the lower 13% of the white population rather than the entirety of the white population. Sure, that would be I mean, listen, I'm not saying that there don't exist instances where a poor white person can't get a leg up. That certainly does exist, and I would seek to correct that as well. I believe rising tides lifts all boats, so I would want to help out everybody who's poor, not just black people. But I'm saying that I would help black people for sure, because they do have predominantly they have worse off outcomes in comparison. I actually just found out Asian families hold more wealth than all other racial groups. They have I almost don't even believe this amount because it's such a high amount. It's an average of $535,400.
If anything, that lower 13% of the white population that you're talking about would be a more equal showing, a more equal comparison compared to the black, compared to using the entire white population for those statistics, and see whether or not it's actually true that these same that the comparisons between these poor black neighborhoods and poor white neighborhoods would be comparable.
But again, I would
in
say
that
help
sense.
both, like just help people that are poor.
So,
right?
at which
Which
point
would
you're
also
basically
involve
you're
black
suggesting
people.
that if the system is going to help all of these people, all of these poor people,
Hell yeah.
where would the
Based.
racism be? Where would the racism
Yeah, exactly.
be? if
There'd
you're-
be no
if you're-
racism. I know. I agree.
But that's, and the thing is, that's
But you have to
already happening
acknowledge
to
that the
things
systemic racism does exist in order to fix the problem. You can't even acknowledge the problem is there.
All right. Next question we got here from Anthony Salea. Thank you for the $10. There is still sundown towns in the South. Gerrymandering is a real thing. DEI is in itself racist towards whites, in my opinion. Same with scholarships and college acceptance favor minorities over merit.
So this is what I mean, is that if you have a poor K through 12 education and you call that merit, but if you're born in an area that has predominantly better educational outcomes, it's not just merit, it's the fact that the systems were there to help you that are not necessarily there for predominantly black and minority neighborhoods across the United States. That's why DEI was applied. And again, when you look at the overall wealth outcomes for white people, it's not like that they're suffering as a result of DEI inclusion policies. I'm sorry, it's just not there.
But the fact that these same white people would be, never mind. I was losing my train of thought as I was saying.
No worries. We got $5 comes in from Daniel Z. Says First Amender is just another white oppressing a strong black man due to systemic racism.
Just furthering the cycle.
I'm not oppressing anybody. I'm saying literally, hey, let's help people who need it. And dismantle barriers that prevent somebody from being able to succeed. I'm literally arguing, hey, let's give people the boots so they can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But if they don't have boots, they're going to have a hard time doing that.
All right. And thank you for that, Daniel. And then we got Dane Snyder. Amender is using Wiki as a source. My professors would throw away a thesis if you used Wiki as a source because it's publicly edited, no scholarship.
There are scholarly sources within Wikipedia. It is a valid source. You can use Wikipedia. I mean, if you want, I can pull up the individual sources that Wikipedia is using. It would be the same result. It's a very lazy way of just dismantling a claim, even though that I brought up Brookings.edu as well as lead findings and empirical analysis behind that. So it like, this is just an effort to try to dismantle an argument that is very strong, and that's not really a rebuttal at all.
All right. And we got $10 comes in from Lord of the Nerds. Thank you for that. Tulsa happened after a group of diverse people pew-pewed non-diverse people who then gathered and armed themselves and retaliated, not because they didn't like them having wealth. Amender is ahistoric.
It was predominantly
it,
white
too.
supremacists that did that. That's not me being historic. It was white supremacists that burned it down. If you're wondering what their internal motivations would be, I think you're the one that is ahistoric here.
All right. You don't got nothing for that, Tomahawk? Good.
It's literally
No
called
worries.
the Tulsa Race Massacre. It's fucking idiots.
We got Dane Snyder says, question for Amender. Apples to apples, oranges to oranges. What is the level of wealth for the lower 13% of white people compared to the black population?
I don't know. But the fact that you have to compare the lowest 13% of white Americans to all black people says that there's obviously a disparity of wealth.
it'd be a much more, I guess, equal comparison. I would
Yeah,
say.
I'm sure if I grabbed the lowest bottom rung of people and compared it to all black people, then yeah, it would be equal. What the fuck is that argument? Holy shit.
All right. We got another 10 comes in from Dane. Says, I'm going broke super chatting, but Tomahawk needs to stop letting Amender funnel feed him questions to answer and instead place the onus back on the affirmative to make and defend his argument.
It's the first time I'm doing this. I will get better. Sorry, I disappointed
I
you
mean,
today.
I already defended the argument in the intro.
All right, fair. And then we got 20. Big 20 comes in from Elderline. Thank you, Elderline. If loans are based on assets, then it's not based on race, unless you are asserting income level is now a race. So yes, you are saying all blacks while asserting not all blacks. So you contradicted yourself.
I think I tried saying.
Do you understand
that
how a
in my-
generalization works and what like a bell curve is and how like these things work? Like, holy crap, that is an idiotic concept to you. Holy shit. Jesus
No,
Christ.
it's not that idiotic, but I
Oh,
tried
it's
to say
completely
something.
brain rotted.
It's not brain rotted because I tried to say something similar.
There are
because
rich black people and there are poor black people. But if you look
there
at
are
the entire
rich white
medium
people and there are
overall,
poor white
I
people.
agree. But if you look at the overall, black people predominantly is lower.
But
Holy
loans
crap.
are not. But loans themselves are not racist.
If
and
you
that was what I was
have
getting
less
at the
assets
time when
on
I-
average, then you have worse
Okay.
loans. Holy
Having
shit.
less assets is not a racist
And if
thing
you're
when
seeing as
anyone
higher
can
risk.
have less assets. Anyone can have less assets, and therefore
Holy shit.
anyone can have less assets. Therefore, if you're it's not racist to have less assets when when all it is just you have less assets.
All right. We got another 10 comes in from Dane Snyder. Says, why are black people poor? Not my job to tell you why blacks are poor. It's your job to tell me. Because they are black. I need you to objectively demonstrate that.
Because of systemic racism. I've already objectively demonstrated that.
Yeah, that's because they're black. So you would need to, and that's my fault for not going after that. But yeah, you say
throughout the
it's
20th
systemic
century, they were
racism
pushed
because
down
it's
because they
systemic
were black.
racism.
That's correct. That's literally what happened. Correct.
That you would need to demonstrate how that was the case. I can concede that before 1964, but after 1964, after 1964 you would need to show
it doesn't
that
just
is the
magically
case.
go
Just
away.
because populations and areas are predominantly black doesn't mean that that's
let me
why.
break down
Just
stats,
because that they're
stats
black
101 for
doesn't mean
you.
that that's why that they get denied loans.
If you could do me a favor and share
the
that.
same thing for the poor white neighborhoods. That's what I was saying.
If you could do me a favor and share that, I'd appreciate that. All right. So the vertical bar represents population. The amount of money, the further to the right, the richer you are. Black people, you could see here, you would have most people landing somewhere in the middle. White people here landing somewhere in the middle, but on average, white people have more money, right? That's not to say that there aren't black people that are richer than some white people. That certainly does exist, but the overlap is that white people in general are richer. That's true. We know that to be the fact. And that's because racist systemic discrimination or systemic racism still does exist. Holy fucking crap.
No. I mean, it's not because they were the first,
Did you ever
it's
go
not
to
because
college?
they were
I
the
went to
first ones
college.
to be here and that they were the ones
Did
that
you go to
established the
college?
country
I
in the
went to
first-
college. I learned my stats. What about you?
I went to college as well,
Fabulous.
but I learned different.
You got your bachelor's degree?
Actually, no.
Oh.
But it doesn't matter.
Maybe
I don't see
systemic
why. I don't see,
racism has more
I
to
don't
do with
see why that matters. I don't see why having a fucking piece of paper matters when you can learn
specifically,
from
it's not the
anywhere.
piece of paper. It's the fact that you learned more. You were in school more,
Not
and you got a
really.
formal education.
You can
Yeah.
learn just as much from.
Yeah, show
either
me the
trade school or
engineer
simply
that's
your-
sitting there making it, doing their engineering with YouTube videos. Like, have fun, dude. Yeah, okay, dude.
All right,
With
so
that.
$5 comes in from Original Vintage. Thank you for that. Says, so lead in the water is instantly racist,
No.
even if white people drink the same water
No.
as blacks or Mexicans.
No.
The fuck are
Lead
you on about?
concentrations are higher among Black Americans in the United States because they are in areas of greater lead concentration. That doesn't make lead racist. That makes people had placed systems in such a way that negatively affects their educational attainment. You fucking troglodyte.
But if
Jesus
lead-
Christ.
but
These people are so
that is the-
maybe these guys just have the maybe these freaking questioners,
But that is the
they're the
question.
ones
That
that
is
just
his
actually just have
question, though.
unironic lead poisoning, bro.
You're
Like these
just- you're
people are so
basically
fucking
saying-
brain rotted. It's fucking insane, dude. They can't.
But
They're
it-
sitting there thinking that I believe lead is racist. That's how stupid they are.
Your
Holy
argument,
shit, dude.
Your
I am
arguments,
so
your
glad.
arguments-
I am so glad that I didn't
Your
get
argument
my
surrounds
fucking
the fact that
my
lead
daily
poisoning
intake of
affects-
fucking lead like this fucking guy right here in this
You're
question.
basically
Holy
basically
crap.
saying that white people
I am
don't,
so
you're
glad that at least
suggesting-
Speakeasy is making money off of the unironic lead poisoning from this question. Holy shit, dude.
the argument you're making though is basically boils down to that because it disproportionately affects black people more.
Yeah,
You're saying,
it's like a
you're saying
system that
lead
results in
affects-
racism.
That's it, but that's what you're saying. It's lead. You're basically
No
saying
racist
that
act.
lead
No,
is-
I'm not saying lead is racist.
saying
Lead
that
is lead.
racist
Lead will be
because it
lead no matter what.
disproportionately
I don't
affects
look
white-
at lead
black
and go like,
people
oh my
more
god,
than
the
white people,
racism.
even
That's
though
so
white
idiotic.
people can drink the
Holy
same
shit.
water.
Y'all
If
are
white
fucking
people drink the
brain
same
rotted,
water, do they
dude.
not
These
get-
are MAGA supporters, bro.
But
MAGA supporters.
do white
Man, I gotta
pe-
check
do-
the fucking
would
lead
white
concentration
people
ratios in MAGA supporters. It would make so much
Would
sense.
white people still get stupider if they drank the lead water?
Yeah, they
And the-
would.
And so it's not.
So in their
it's not
predominantly
inherently
white
racist
affluent
that it
neighborhoods, that
affects
would be
more
less
black
lead
people than
concentration there.
than white people.
Fuck me, dude.
All right. Next one comes in from Lord of the Nerds for $5. Thank you for that. Poor people outnumber diverse poor people as a whole, so there's intrinsically more poor neighborhoods for capitalist exploitation. Amender fails again.
For white people, outnumber diverse poor people as whole. So there's is this a fucking sentence? Do we need to like
Yes.
get hooked on phonics? What is happening with this sentence? I don't even know what this question is. Bro, I am so Speakeasy, you are getting so much money from all the lead poisoning from these MAGA supporters. Bro, they got to be dude, what is in that Trump water, bro? We are fucking cooked. Holy shit. We are so
funny.
fucked.
It's really funny that all of these guys are coming to my defense, even though I know I did.
Dude, you're on the Speakeasy podcast. This is overwhelmingly right wingers on this show. They're literally going to suck your cock so fucking hard. And I promise you, their mouth is open much more for fucking black cock than they are about black history or black racism. I just want to let you know that that's the reality.
Is this the spurging that people are talking about? Am I experiencing?
I'm just
it?
letting you
Is
know
this-
it's the reality. Be mad.
All right. Next one comes in from Prince of Dogs for $5. Says, first sounds like you were raised in a lead pipe community. Ride the short bus.
Nope.
Thank you for that. Next one comes in from Prince of Dogs for $2. Just says, God bless Easy. Thank you very much. God bless you as well. And another $2 just to support. Thank you very much, Prince of Dogs.
The empty two. You love to see it.
And then we got another $5 comes in from Lord of the Nerds. Says, diverse people can't scrape paint off walls with your fancy rich white people paint scrapers. And that's systematic ismingisms.
Hold on. I can translate this. I speak it. Diverse people can't scrape paint off of walls with your fancy rich white people paint scrapers, and that's systematic ismingisms. First Amender.
Thank you for that
I don't even know what
translation.
it's
That
asking. Yeah, I didn't understand it, even with the translation.
New member comes in from Sempiternal Chaos. Thank you very much. I appreciate that big time. Kokomo sends in $10. Says full credit to First Amender civil debate. No spurging.
I couldn't get him to spurge,
Thank
so
you.
that's my failure.
Thank you for the $10, Kokomo. Trench comes in for $5. Says which is a greater harm for blacks, 75% single motherhood or lead poisoning, because affluent white areas have fathers.
This is another
That is
instance of systemic racism. You have instances where there is less fathers because there was often over policing in predominantly poor areas, again, requiring no racist actors. You have an instance, for example, where you have black mothers in predominantly black areas that are concerned about crime. They call in their city to try to get more police, which results in more black people going to jail, often for longer sentences throughout the 20th century, which results in more fatherless homes. But yes,
So
fatherless
not
homes are for
no-fault
sure
divorce.
a genuine issue in predominantly black areas.
So no fault divorce did not play a role in the.
I don't
fact that-
believe that to get rid of no fault divorce. I think no fault divorce is perfect. I would rather people leave if
So
they're
you don't
if they
believe that that mothers aren't.
I think forcing people to be in a situation that they don't want to be in is worse off than to just allow people to leave. This
But that's-
benefits white people as well as black people. Everybody benefits by having no fault divorce, specifically
certainly
women.
that's
Especially
certainly
women.
not a system that seems to be racist, since everyone can take advantage of something
Yes, I
like
agree.
no fault divorce.
That's why I didn't
Well,
bring
that's
up
a
no fault
no
divorce.
fault
but you did.
divorce is definitely a topic we can get into in the future for sure.
Yeah.
Dane Snyder comes in for $5. Says if the issue with oppression is because people are poor rather than race, then Amender's whole argument collapses.
I tried to go into that, but I got pressured and I crumbled.
The problem.
Yeah, that was basically what I was saying. Is like his whole point was that he's talking about poor people, and poor people isn't racial. Doesn't matter the disparity that there are more black poor people than there are white people. The system is designed to exploit poor people.
So
There's no race behind it. So it's just poor people. Then that's not racial.
So
that's
all
just
else-
exploiting poor people.
So all else equal, then yes, that would be correct. But we don't have an equal amount of poor people for white and black people. It's overwhelmingly black people.
It doesn't matter.
Which is
If
why it
you're
results in
exploiting- if you're
racist
exploiting
outcomes,
poor
right?
people, it
Regarding
doesn't matter if
regarding
you're a black
the
poor person or a
system
white
being
person.
racist, right? Again, doesn't require a single racist actor. You could just have a system that results in racist outcomes. And the fact is that black people are predominantly poorer, which means that when you're poor, you have less access to better loans or bank access or increased access to equity, which results in racist outcomes. That's
But-
empirically verifiable. Jesus fuck, dude. I swear to
but
God,
that's the whole-
I gotta
and
get
I
like
was
fucking
close to- I was
spelling
close-
blocks for these fucking kids, dude. It's
know what?
fucking wild, dude.
I think
I gotta
I
get
was-
like
I
some
was close
fucking
with this
blocks
point.
with like A, B, C, D, like unironically, dude. I can't
Yeah,
sit there and bring
definitely.
up standard deviations or talk about anything regarding statistics or any study or anything for that matter.
Because
I
in this
literally have to
case,
get you
argue-
back into elementary school level 5. Like I guarantee you that if I said 2 + 2 = 4,
poor
I guarantee
people
you there would
is
be
just
right wingers that
not
would tell me that
racist to
the
be
answer is
poor.
5. It's
You just don't
fucking
have
wild
money.
to me, bro.
All right.
It's not racist to be poor. It's just you just don't have money, bro.
Oh Jesus
Just because there's a
Oh, it's so
portion-
retarded. Can we move on? Holy shit.
All right, the next one that comes in is from Lord of the Nerds again for $5. Thank you, Lord of the Nerds. Notice Amender didn't address my citation of the cause of Tulsa, which was the pew-pewing of.
white people.
I'm thinking this means white people. I'm
yeah, it's
guessing.
white
The
Cause
pew-pewing of white
white
people.
Tulsa
Idiot
riot.
indeed.
Let's take a look. All right. So this is the Tulsa City County Library. Tulsa's Greenwood District. Let's see. site of one of the most devastating race disturbances in the history of the United States. Before May 31st, 1921, Tulsa's black business district known as Greenwood flourished in spite of segregation. It boasted several restaurants, theaters, clothing shops, and hotels. Dubbed the Black Wall Street, Greenwood was an economic powerhouse. After May 31st of 1921, Greenwood would never be the same. The tension mounted between black and white communities over an incident that allegedly occurred at an elevator at Drexel Building in downtown Tulsa involving Sarah Page, a 17-year-old white elevator operator, and Dick Rowland, a 19-year-old black man. There are several versions that was supposedly transpired, but the most common being Dick Rowland accidentally stepped on Page's foot in the elevator, throwing her off balance. When Rowland reached to keep her from falling, she screamed. Many Tulsans came to believe that through media reports that Rowland attacked Page, although no sufficient evidence surfaced to substantiate that claim. The incident was further escalated by a local newspaper headline that encouraged the public to nab Negro for attacking girl in elevator. So yeah, once again, racist fucking bullshit, and you're wrong again. As always, right-wingers are always wrong. The evidence is never on your side. You have to make shit up in order to make your reality work. And I swear to God, this whole fucking MAGA train, you are going to fucking lose for the midterms. Have fun.
All right.
So.
Oh, sorry. You got something for that?
Yeah. So that whole cause thing, where it was basically a sensationalized story of something of what would have been a normal would have been a normal thing, is really the whole cause, and that's what he was talking about. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. Next one comes in from Dane Snyder again for $5. Says, what the fuck is that argument? The argument is average wealth among whites is higher than the blacks because there are more whites than blacks.
Holy shit.
These are things.
Holy shit. Holy shit. He actually has no idea what the fucking average is. Okay, if I have 5 people with 5 oranges and then 1,000 people with 6 oranges, the 1,000 people with 6 oranges average is 6 fucking oranges, you fucking troglodyte. Holy shit, dude. How many fucking knuckle dragging fucking cavemen do you have in fucking chat? That is fucking wild. How do you not know what a that's middle school fucking math, you idiot. Holy shit. Actual valid fucking crash out. You're unironically fucking elementary school. Oh, everybody, let's pull up the fucking worksheet on what mean, median, and mode is. You fucking idiot. Holy shit, dude. What are you feeding these people, Speakeazy? What the fuck?
I will ask this.
Actual fucking moron.
I will ask.
I don't take any responsibility for what these people eat or drink. I'm just saying.
I was gonna try to ask him. It's like, well,
alcohol. Yeah, you need it. You need it for your body.
When you're.
Fuck.
This chill. This after debate chill and
fuck,
is going to be
dude.
Interesting.
Holy shit.
Stay for the panel, man. This
great.
Is be wild.
I was just
full on crash out, bro. The dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Dane says, speaking of alcohol, damn it, I'm spending my whiskey money now. Tomahawk, no apology needed. You just need practice. Reach out to me and we can role play debating.
I appreciate it, man. I will reach out.
All right. $5 comes in from Lord of the Nerds. Wait, so if chat has lead poisoning, then Amanda thinks it's likely diverse people in chat he is calling idiots.
Oh my God.
No comment for that one, Lord of the Nerds. Another one comes in from Lord of the Nerds, $5. Says Amanda ate too much lead and know that super chats are censored and we have to work around talking about these things. What an idiot.
I have a question for nerds. Was that a good interpretation of what you were trying to say? When I translated your comment from before, when I translated your super chat from before.
All right. Next one comes in from William Kramer Jr. Says, just because it happens doesn't mean I need that image in my head.
Again, not a single one of these comments able to rebut anything of what I said. Not a single one. Not a single one. And just FYI, right? It was shit, I don't see his name anymore. What the fuck happened to his name? What's his name again? What's your name? Fucking
Tomahawk.
Tomahawk. I had you speechless multiple times in this debate. You know you fucked up in this debate. The only reason why you feel you're doing all right now is because the audience is in your favor. But I guarantee you that if you showed up to a group of flat earthers and you are arguing for a globe earth, I'm sure the hundreds of people that are in favor of flat earth would say that you got mogged in a debate, even though you are empirically correct. So the problem is that if just because that the audience seems to like you and people seem to dislike me doesn't mean I'm wrong. In fact, you have provided zero evidence on your side.
You are beating up a newbie. You're beating up at someone who has not done this and has never done this before this point. So you're basically hitting me at level 1, and you're like the quote unquote level 100 boss in this sense. But I'm just like the level 1. I don't
know if I'm that good.
Level 100. I like it. I like it. First amender. You almost got me to read it, asshole. First amender won't spurg on Tomahawk, because that would be systemic racism.
Because I can assure you, if I come back and I've leveled up,
but me as an individual isn't creating a system to discriminate against Tomahawk. It's just system. Anyway, it's a joke, but
you're a whole system now. Prince of Dogs says, "Get ready to run and cope on your stream." Thank you for the $5, Prince of Dogs. Then we got another $5 from Dane. Says, Tomahawk, you need a bigger vocabulary and technique. Read some Soul.
Oh,
Jason
Jesus,
Riley,
fuck. Holy shit.
Shadow
Holy
Jackson,
shit. Fucking
Armstrong
Solo.
Williams, and more.
He's not wrong. I do need to read.
Oh my God. Fucking holy brain rot, dude. Yeah, please do yourself a favor and avoid Solo. Holy shit.
Hold on. Wait. Why would you discourage me from reading Thomas Sowell? That's a black guy.
Yeah, so the problem is because here's the thing, right? Whenever you have a predominant
reading one of my own.
Listen, whenever you have a predominant expert in a field that flies in the face of the general consensus, you need to put your epistemology hat on and think, why is it that they have completely different arguments from the entire consensus? Is it because the entire consensus is wrong and this one guy is right? Or is it because this one guy is right and the entire consensus is wrong? Now, it's totally possible, right, that the one guy is right and the entire consensus is wrong. There have been large paradigm shifts.
Happened, right?
There have been large paradigm shifts in the past. However, at the same time, hear me out. However, at the same time, the consensus is the consensus for a reason. There's a lot of evidence that is backing up the consensus. So generally speaking, when someone is coming up with some paradigm shifting thing and provides no paperwork and no research behind their quote unquote theories, you may as well take their ideas and throw it in the garbage. And that's what Thomas Sowell provides.
If we're just going to appeal to consensus, then all this, then shit like
it's not an appeal to consensus.
Shit like the scientific method.
Never mind. Moving on. Pearls before swine. It's pearls before swine.
Those were unpopular beliefs because the Catholic Church was as prominent as it was back then.
I'm talking about scientific consensus, not the idiot fucking Catholic Church. What?
We're talking science only came about by being empirical and showing itself to be superior.
And then there's a consensus behind it. Jesus fuck.
It became a consensus after it was
Moving on.
unpopular first. That's the whole thing.
All right, we'll get through these last few here. Dane Snyder for $10 says Amender's spurging about averages actually makes my point because he's presuming that each white person has 6 oranges. That's not how wealth is distributed amongst whites.
I'm not even going to dignify that with an answer.
All right, no worries. We got another 10 comes in from Dane Snyder. Says Amender didn't have Tomahawk speechless due to Amender's skill and logical soundness. Middle school first string basketball player against a third string college basketball player. That's all.
That's what I said. Level 100 boss versus a level 1 crook, and me. I'm the level 1 crook. But rest assured, I will.
Charizard versus Charmander.
You're going to need to do a lot of reading. A lot of reading.
Charmander's the first form, right? I forget.
Yeah, for Charmander's the first form.
Yeah, okay.
Hell, you can actually no. I would not give First Amender the quality of being a Mega Charizard. No. He is not a Mega Charizard.
$10 donated to me. It was saying
go ahead.
Appreciation for a good debate. That was it. By Kokomo CJ. Thank you, Kokomo, for that. I appreciate that.
Kokomo's a real one. $5 comes in from the random person. Sorry. It takes a special kind of racist like First Amender to see racism
I don't
in
see
everything.
racism in anything, but I have to acknowledge the existence of systemic racism. There's a great deal of academic research that is empirically able to show the existence of systemic racism. The question is whether or not that you're willing to acknowledge those findings or just simply claim bias and then be in your MAGA echo chamber.
If they took race out of all of those studies, would it still be racist? Well, actually, that's a really bad. Never mind.
No worries. $5 comes in from Lord of the Nerds. Finish the Tulsa article where it says the pewing started when diverse people pewed white people outside the sheriff's office. Don't stop early. Read.
I have no idea how you have this much disposable income being as brain rotted as you are.
Just $5, bro. It's $5.
Yeah, I'm just saying, whoever this guy is, this is a trust fund baby, bro. He's donated like 20 times by now.
It's just $5.
He's been donating over and over,
like
multiple
$100.
times. Bro has been donating over $100.
Is it? We got prints of dogs for $5. Is it because you read it? It must be.
I mean, if you're talking about an academic source with empirical verification, then yes, that's yes.
That again, I would say that Brooks EDU article was basically just describing the effects, not the actual either the location.
I mean, we can pull up individual studies, but that would require having more than a fucking MAGA brain rot TikTok brain.
Another $5 from Lord of the Nerds says, and this was a couple months after a white person was lynched.
Okay. Are you justifying the Tulsa massacre? Like, I don't know what the fuck.
That's not a justification of the Tulsa
I don't know
massacre.
what you're doing.
Then we have last one here from Dane Snyder. $5 says, Tomahawk, what Amender is telling you is to commit the appeal to consensus fallacy. All of those authors mentioned are black.
Yeah, that's
I didn't say that the consensus is correct. What I'm saying is that use your brain. Think about it.
Wait,
There's a reason why the consensus is the consensus. You have to ask yourself whether or not one person has a paradigm shifting metric or that it is likely the consensus is correct, and to use your brain, because overwhelmingly the consensus is usually correct over a single paradigm shifting person. Especially how old is fucking Solo by now? Like 90, and nobody can corroborate his evidence. Nobody in his entire life has ever been able to replicate or corroborate any of his fucking findings, and economics has moved on without him. Why is that? Maybe he's a fucking quack. Maybe that's why. Fuck me, dude. I can't stand this shit. Fucking idiots,
Okay,
dude.
I
Y'all
mean,
are
All
fucking
right.
brain
Oh,
rotted
Oh,
as shit, dude.
and we did
fucking
have-
MAGA
sorry.
is so fucking cooked. We in the United States are so fucked. We are going through fucking brain drain. All the fucking left wingers have fucking left for fucking Europe, and now I'm still fucking sitting around
they're
with
trying
these
to-
fucking idiots. Holy
Right into the
shit!
right into the jaws of
Real
Muslims,
quick too, we
of
got
Islam.
3 cash apps I forgot to read here. One was $10. It says "Go fuck yourself, easy." Thank you very much. I like that. Next one was $25. Says "Merry Christmas." Thank
Merry
you very much.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas to
Merry
you.
Christmas.
And another one says for $5 says for your prayers are appreciated. Merry Christmas. Thank you
Merry
very much,
Christmas.
and I hope everything's going smoothly.
Are you still
And
there?
that right there wraps up the Q&A for tonight. Again, thank you to everyone in the chat here for all the questions, the engagement, the support. Seriously, the support is what allows me to keep bringing you these debates. The entire Swords of Reason experience here week after week has been because of you guys and your help. So I appreciate every single one of you. Okay. And of course, a huge thank you to our debaters, another big part of the Swords of Reason experience, for stepping into the arena tonight, sharpening their ideas in front of us all. And make sure you guys go and sub up to them in the description, okay? Before we move on, let me check real quick. Are either of you planning to hang for the open panel tonight?
Hell no.
I am.
All right.
As a
no.
learning experience, I am.
All right, no worries. And so here's what's happening next. We're gonna roll the debate outro. It'll run for about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Perfect time. Hit the
Enjoy the
washroom,
fucking-
grab a drink, stretch your legs.
I mean, they're gonna be nice to you, but I tell you, if I joined that, they would absolutely come in and just fucking be fucking giant assholes. There's no
I
fucking
mean,
way.
I thought you were.
I ain't gonna
I
fucking.
thought being as a debater, you would need to be used. To
I
this kind
tried
of
staying
thing.
around once, and people were really fucking horrible, and just
Were they
talking over
horrible
me the
because
entire time.
They were horrible because
fuck
they were
those
countering
people.
your arguments, or were they horrible because you're just I guess a horrible.
Well, no.
person or something?
To be fair to Amender, the first time he stayed, yeah, a lot of people just like piled up, right? And you're the one
okay.
side
Yeah, there's
against.
some-
but
this
I
is
wouldn't sit in the
literally a
room either.
right wing podcast. Like it's going.
You
to
know what
be
I
that
mean?
way.
I can understand that, but I
I
will
can
say
at
that
least-
like if everyone does pile like that, I will rein it back in. But if you don't want to stay, that's totally up to you. I totally understand it.
Yep.
Hey,
Good talk.
I just appreciate the fact that you even come on to these things to begin with. Like that's
I do what I
commendable
can.
in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, totally up to you. But yeah, we're gonna roll the debate outro here. It'll run for about 4 minutes. Perfect time for everyone to hit the washroom, grab a drink, whatever you need to do. During the outro, I'm gonna drop the link in the chat for anyone who wants to join. Test your ideas, all of this. Again, if you're coming to just spurg over everyone, troll people, bring personal drama, you're just gonna get booted and or muted and then likely booted real quick.
Lunchtime 369 said First Amender stay for a bit. I will stay for a bit, but
Based. I
bro,
like
as
it.
soon as I start getting fucking dogpiled, I'm leaving. I ain't doing it.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. And before we run the intro, one last reminder. Make sure you subscribe to both debaters. Their links are in the description. And if you are enjoying these debates, hit the subscribe on the Speakeazy channel as well, so you don't miss any upcoming Swords of Reasons, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. This is where logic meets passion. All right, let's roll the outro, and I will see you all in a few minutes.
I do not want to listen to that outro. Holy shit. Hold on. Where's my edge? I'll put the music back in. Ah, much better. I'll stay for a bit, but I got work in the morning. Let me use the bathroom. Hang tight. GGM says, always trust the consensus. So it's good when doctors hammered away at women's brains to cure hysteria, you fucking idiot. Yeah, again, I didn't say the consensus is always correct. I never said that. I'm saying compare the two. What is more likely? Jesus, fuck. I just, listen, I'm not a fan of, I don't know, a lot of these like very heavy right-wing podcasters because, I mean, it's so overwhelming, just the amount of people that, I mean, it doesn't matter what you say. Like if you just say things that they disagree with, the facts don't matter. They're not interested in the facts. They don't read any studies. That's how you can maintain being a right-winger. It's a Rubik's says, First Amender. I got some good clips from that. Thank you, Rubik's. I appreciate that. Let me know about them. I did get some. I'll make shorts out of it later. All right, is this? Jesus, how long is this outro? It's a fucking weird Crusader outro. If you're so right, then why are you scared? Because you guys are fucking nuts. That's why. Y'all are fucking nuts. Like, unironically, all the shit that I see on fucking Twitter with all the fucking super hateful shit and all the fucking constant fucking questions left and right over shit that is like empirically false. And it doesn't even address my points at all. If you're just like an insufferable douchebag the entire time, here we go.
Back.
There we go. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, just real quick, Tomahawk. First of all, like props for like getting in the cage, all this kind of shit. But like technically, like I agree with First Amendment here that there is systematic racism. Like all you have to do is point to like the DEI, multiculturalism, like that's literally racism. But like the main kind of like thing that I saw is that, like you one sec, dogs. The main thing that I saw in terms of strategy, like you made it way too easy for him. Like you were basically answering all his questions when you needed to say like you're the affirmative. You need to give me the bona fide proof, and then we can talk about my speculation. Also, First Amendment, do not worry, comrade. We have planned for Europe too.
Yeah.
I mean, I brought the step-by-step. I provided what is systemic racism, what is defined as it, and then I brought up how people were pushed off into poorer socioeconomic conditions based on skin color, and that those positions are pervasive even to this day. And considering educational attainment, funding is lower in predominantly poor and therefore black areas, is a result of systemic racism.
DEI or not support DEI?
I very much support DEI. Yes.
Yeah,
So DEI is the answer against systemic
racism. Right there.
I will say that was one of the main issues I had with coming up with any sort of argument, was the fact that DEI is itself a system of racism, a system for racism. It's racist against whites.
So
it gives
addressing
merit to that, so that, but the fact is, I wasn't. Yeah. Go
what
ahead.
it does is that it addresses disparities of wealth. It literally does the exact opposite of racism. Racism is on the basis of exclusion, on the basis of a racial supremacy exclusion, whereas DEI is an effort. DEI is an effort of inclusion, not exclusion. Is literally the exact opposite.
Okay,
just real quick. I just have one question. One sec, dog.
One at a time, boys. One at a time.
I just have one question, and then I'll shut the fuck up. First Amendment, do you think that we should make America less white?
No.
That's
Okay, so
what
then what do you
DEI
mean DEI?
does on a fundamental
DEI does
level.
not
If
do
you're
that.
going to bring
DEI just gives
No,
additional,
okay, hold on.
just gives
hold
additional
on.
opportunity for
I was trying to
people.
get to the point here a minute ago. It's like, because you are a supporter of DI, DI recognizes this person because of their ethology, like their race, their color, their skin, versus their merit of their being. So how is that not racist, even though like maybe you're in support of them, but like you're still acknowledging that point of their being,
So,
not the
if-
other points.
If
of
you
their
can
being.
recognize that systemic racism does exist, as in that there are predominant areas where people have been excluded in society on the basis of their race, and that these exist to this day, DEI, what it is designed to do, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. It's actually specifically DEIA.
You're not listening to what I'm saying.
What that is done is it is done to create a fair and welcoming representation of environments where people of different backgrounds, different races, and genders are able to address
So
the
the point
socioeconomic
that you have to
disparity on the
make
basis
an
of race.
extra point in order for these people to have the ability to do that.
It's
is
just
indeed
including people
acknowledging
who are
that,
socioeconomically
right?
disadvantaged. That's what DEI is.
Well,
Well-
I could be socially disadvantaged even as a
Correct.
white
I have
dude.
a- I have a
Correct.
question about
Totally
this, but I gotta
possible.
wait for
Yeah, I
Dog.
agree.
It's
And
just-
in which
so
case, I am
if-
perfectly okay with
but why
DEI
make
efforts
special
for white people.
standards for the
Yeah, I'm
other?
perfectly okay with that.
Why?
There's nothing wrong with DEI efforts for poor people. That's perfectly acceptable.
But that's not how it
But
goes.
that's-
But
bro,
it
that's not
does.
how it's
It does
working. That's
go
not how
that
it
way.
works
What do
when-
you think the
when
Pell Grant is?
No, that's not.
What do you think the Pell Grant is? Pell Grant literally addresses people who are poor. It's true.
But
So, I actually have a number of questions for First Amender, but I guess the first one is, it seems as if your understanding of systemic racism is based off of outcomes, but also your advocacy for DEI is based off of what it's designed for. So I don't really see
Yeah, so
you claim
it's
that
a racist.
DEI leads to the outcomes that you like also, or that merely the design?
Yeah, well,
is-
we've been able to exhibit what
which
the
would lead
effects
to
of
intent, by the way.
DEI, what the effects of DEI were in colleges, where college attainment as well as graduation rates were increased among
Great.
Black individuals as opposed to not providing DEI efforts. This also positively impacted Black communities in that it had actually improved socioeconomic status empirically.
So
It was
what you
shown to do
did,
so.
you took a culture that wanted to strive to survive, and then you pampered them. Then they
part of the
didn't
reason
need
why I
to
don't
strive
come
to
on
survive.
panels much
And then you
anymore.
didn't
I'm
Hold
not
up,
treat
dogs,
associated with
dogs,
it.
dogs.
That's not what-
Let Adam do his inquiry. So this is what
Oh,
I was
sorry.
talking about last time.
Sorry,
You guys
my bad.
try to like finish each other's
Okay.
like
Okay.
Socratic method here, right?
Well-
Where one's asking a question, then the next
I should let you know I have to go soon. In about
All right.
10
Yeah,
Well,
minutes.
so, like,
I will.
Let
I
him
will
do
go.
his,
I will go
and
as
then you
fast
do
as possible.
yours. You know, it makes
So,
it
I promise
easier.
you, I got 100 things to say.
There also seems to be, well, so that you clarified. So the intent of DEI doesn't really seem to matter. It's all about the outcome, which I get. But then you also seem to say that racism, just generally racism, is intent based, but systemic racism is outcomes based. Is that correct, First Amender?
I don't know if I agree with the early Earth thing. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, but yes, in terms of systemic racism, yes, it is an outcomes situation. It doesn't actually require any racist actors. It just has to have a system that leads to it. Like, take for example, a good example would be like if let's say for example, have you seen like a runner's well, if you say for example like a runner's track, right, where you've noticed like that the beginning line is like further back the further on the outside that you are, and the reason why is because it's a further running, so it makes it more equal
because it's based off of the curve of the track. But
and so
ultimately
if it was
I get that.
And if it was designed where the line was just a singular line, then those that are further out would have a more difficult time. The system in itself is unequal, and so that's what it's referring to. Systemic racism.
Yes, no, I understand all of that, but the question is, well, so
yeah, like
I've
the
been
line
on,
is
I've been
like
on an Ibram X
actor,
Kendi kick
right?
recently.
It's just the system itself.
Oh Lord.
Well, I've been on a Kendi kick recently. I've been reading Kendi, and this is in stark disagreement with what appears to be the main definition of racism proposed by Kendi, where racism is also qualified.
What is a Kendi kick?
I have been interested in the work of Ibram X Kendi, the author of the book How to Be Anti-Racist, or How to Be an Anti-Racist, where he
Ibram
has
X. Kendi.
Yeah, you don't know about this guy?
He's an anti-racist activist.
Yes. Where he identifies, he has a rather different way to identify what like a racist action would be, which is an action that would uphold a racist system, not merely intent-based. And I think it's odd that you don't think that somebody who's acting in order to uphold a racist system wouldn't be acting in a racist manner.
So
why that person would be a racist actor.
Okay, is it possible for there to be like people that are legitimately racist and then uphold systems of racism? 100%, that's true.
Well,
I'm saying it doesn't require a racist actor in order to lead to racist outcomes. That's true.
Hold on. Kendi's claim is upholding the.
There's no racism, but it's a racist outcome.
Hold up, Trent. Hold up.
I mean, someone's got to push back against this nonsense.
Hold up, boys. Hold up.
Kendi's claim, which I'm agreeing with in this case, is that merely perpetuating the system that leads to a racist outcome, taking a system and continuing those racist outcomes actively, is racist in and of itself.
Yes.
So it isn't. So the intent doesn't matter at that point. Like, let's say redlining, and you have like a guy who just really loves the housing policy, and he just really loves the housing policy, but he has no racial animus at all. He's just a weird policy nut, and he just really loves the policy.
Yeah.
That guy on Kendi is a racist.
Yes.
Because he's actively upholding the racist policy despite having no internal bigotry.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I don't think I would call that individual racist. Their desires are different, but it leads to racist outcomes. The system itself becomes racist.
Well, then how do you? Well, then I guess the question there is, it seems like you have a completely different standard for systems rather than individuals. And what I mean by that is, if the system itself isn't intending on being racist, but its outcomes are racist, then it's racist. But if an individual has no intends the outcomes to be racist,
I think I see.
But the outcomes are not, that individual would be. And this just seems like a bold-faced
I think I see what you're saying. And I personally believe that intent certainly matters. I mean, the difference of killing somebody in terms of intent versus by accident is a huge difference.
But you don't believe that. You don't believe that on a systemic level.
Well, I think it doesn't require a racist actor in order to lead to racist outcomes. I believe that.
Oh my God!
Hold on. Your definition of systemic racism.
Don't unpack it. Unpack that. What the fuck does that mean?
Your definition.
Stop.
Why is he
chill?
Where is this guy?
Your definition, which you've stated multiple times, is that a racist system is when the system leads to racist outcomes. It's not based on the intent.
Systemic
of the system.
racism is just racial disparities produced and maintained by institutions, laws, policies, and social systems, even when nobody is intended to discriminate.
Okay, Google. Thanks, Google.
Yes. So the point is,
okay? Like, do you need like a
No, I'm pushing back against your retarded nonsense. It's nonsense.
I know, but chill. You gotta chill.
Yeah, maybe you want to like go back and eat some fucking like more paint chips that will maybe help with your
I get the
aggression.
question. Hold on. He's gonna run away.
Trent, Adam Cook.
Chill.
What? You're the one fucking aggro as
reminds me
shit.
of
Like, if you
Rafi
want to
from
actually
the-
ask a real fucking question instead of being some fucking sub 100 IQ troglodyte, like, why don't you actually make a real actual conversation question?
It's like an AI.
Wait, Trench, let Adam wrap up what he's doing here, and I know JS came
Fucking
in
needs
next
to be
after
TikTok
Adam,
brained.
so and JS has something too. So let Adam wrap this up with him because he said he only has a limited time too. And then JS has something
go
for him as well.
I'll be
You don't want to answer my question.
7 minutes.
I will just say this and then I'll shut up. It's just the last thing I want to say is First Amender is like inconsistently applying intent. He's saying in one case intent does matter, in another case of the same thing it doesn't matter. It's actually just inconsistent. Whereas like a scholar of racism, an anti-racist activist like Kendi is significantly more consistent, where he's saying intent does not matter in either case, it's merely outcomes.
It's an interesting point. I'd have to look into it further, and maybe I'm willing to reconsider my position under your basis if it is in fact inconsistent regarding systems. That's fair.
But then I have a further
Oh
point.
my God.
I have a further point regarding outcomes, which would be interesting to get into, but
Serve
I
them up over
just
the
don't
dish
think you know
for
what I'm
them to
talking
knock
about.
out.
No offense to you, First.
Ask him about single
All right, wait,
mothers.
Trench, come on, chill,
Jesus
bro, chill.
Christ,
for a minute.
dude.
JS, you were in after Adam was. Go ahead.
Hey, First Amender, what do you think of single mothers? Sorry,
I want to say congratulations, First Amender. You won the debate. Systemic racism does exist. It's been perpetuated by the most socialist presidents that we ever had, like FDR and his New Deal when they put out the redlining, LBJ and his model city programs where they took the
Woodrow
father out.
Wilson?
Hold on, can
I agree
I
with
make
you.
my
I mean,
point? I'm just saying Democrats perpetuate systemic racism and socialists on Americans, like Marxists and eugenicists, like Margaret Sanger, when they push abortion on people. The majority of the abortion clinics are in urban environments. So
and then
I'll
the
agree with
party-
you. Systemic racism is real. You won the debate. Good job.
Even to this day.
You can thank the Democrats. You can thank the socialists and the Democrats.
The Green
Good
New
job.
Deal and whatnot.
Well, the New Deal and
Yeah,
New
the
Deal
New
in 33, and then the Model
The New
Cities
Deal.
program in 66, and now the Green New Deal, abortion, Jim Crow, the party of racism. That's all the Democrats.
Yeah, and then you completely neglect the entire party switch that happened as a result of the
That's
GOP
not
Fake news.
post
Fake
Watergate.
news.
No, you're a
It was
fucking
one
retard.
soul.
No, actually,
news.
Trent,
That
not
party
fake
switch
news.
was
It
not
turns
one.
out
Dixiecrats.
facts.
What
facts-
a Dixiecrats.
Trent.
Yeah,
Facts.
Let
once
him
again,
answer,
there was
let
the
him
party
answer,
switch.
Trent.
Yeah, once
He's
again,
lying.
no, retard. It's not a fuck.
No,
I'm not
retard.
fucking lying.
Dixiecrats. You
It's
idiot.
literally what the party
Dixiecrats.
switch is. In order,
Strong Thurman?
Google. Hey,
Bird?
retard. Hey,
Google
retard.
Bird.
Google the
Google
Southern
Thurman.
strategy. Hey,
Yeah,
can you mute the
yeah.
fucking moron? Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't-
Google what the Southern
I'm just gonna
strategy
say-
is. Do you understand what the Southern strategy was?
Yes, I do. Are you
Okay,
ready?
so then why the fuck
was
do you
be
think
kind
that
of
when you're
black in
sitting
the
there bringing
cities
up, hey,
and
fucking
lynch them
idiot,
out in the middle of
oh my
nowhere?
God, can
It
you
was
mute
two
the
parties.
fucking retard?
It was
Holy
one party.
shit, I can't handle
Trench,
fucking
people.
Trench.
He just
brain-rotted
can't take
fucking
people
Yeah,
idiots,
you
push
fucking
back.
70
You do this.
IQ fucking...
Trench, you gotta do it one at a time, bro.
Also,
One at a
don't
time.
yell.
I had some things about
don't
Tulsa too,
perpetuate
but I would
the
say
All right,
stereotype
so-
here, man.
You know, the
We've
2000
got-
So
we've got
once,
two- we've
so
got two
so once
opposite
again,
ends.
the Southern strategy was a Republican Party electoral strategy to increase political support among white voters in the South
You don't know any
by
of this stuff off the
appealing
top.
to racism
So-
against
So I
African
still want to. I
Americans.
want to ask you about
As
your
the
lid
civil
pipe.
rights movement and the
Look
at
dismantling
black
of Jim Crow.
Republicans
Shut the
doing
fuck up,
people.
retard! It
Guys.
turns out actual educated people are talking to you now.
I'm
Now
waiting
you
to
have
hear
sit
'em.
down and listen
waiting
and
to hear
stop
it.
being a
Trent.
fucking TikTok
Trent.
retard.
waiting to hear
Open
it.
up your
Trent.
phone
Trent.
and play
Trent.
TikTok
Trent.
so that way
Trent.
you can keep your fucking attention span
That
going so
makes
you can pay
so-
attention.
So,
So as
so
the civil
educated
rights
stuff
movement
you
and
look up on
dismantling
the
of civil Jim Crow laws in the
I can
1950s
appeal
and
to authority,
60s,
too. Look at
visibly
me.
deepening existing racial tensions as much
appeal
of the
to-
southern
oh,
United
sorry,
States.
bro, you gotta
Republican
call it
politicians
Patreon.
such as presidential candidates Richard Nixon and Barry
no.
Goldwater developed strategies
You're not
that
being very
successfully
inclusive,
contributed to the
Yeah,
political
let's keep
realignment of
going.
many white conservative voters in the South who had traditionally supported the Democratic Party so consistently that the voting pattern was named the Solid South. But the strategy also helped push Republican Party much more to the white by winning all of the South. A presidential candidate could obtain the presidency with minimal support. Did you hear that, everybody? FYI, the Southern strategy was
strong?
done to appeal to racists as a result of the fucking Watergate scandal because the
What
Republicans
is
are
a
cooked.
Dixiecrat?
But a lot of fucking
Next
idiot
thing,
fucking people
no,
bring up
we didn't really
Dixiecrats as
fully
like,
get
oh
to
yeah,
that. I don't know
Democrats,
what the
they're
fuck you
actually
even going with
racist.
that.
No, it's actually right-wingers that are
Republican Party
racist.
was
No,
That's
no,
why
no,
right-wingers
no,
want
no,
to
no, no.
fundamentally
They didn't have a
dismantle
right-wing
everything that actually
economic
helps
or
brown
cultural
people.
fucking
You
ideal.
fucking
That's
unironic
nonsense.
Can I just
moron.
clarify?
And with
Can I just
that, I'm
clarify?
going to bed. Y'all have a good night.
Yep.
Big
Oh, you are a vagina.
Why don't you call in the show,
Gaping
Trench,
vagina.
instead of being a fucking
Gaping
retard? We
vagina.
actually I allow
Shit.
calls every
Here,
fucking
Amanda.
Thursday. I ain't
Tell
running
everybody
with a
where they
fucking
can
shit.
find you, Amanda.
I am going to bed because I have an actual
Yeah,
fucking
that's
job.
fine. That's fine. Tell everyone where they can
Give me
find
that.
you.
You can
This
find
dude
me on
thinks
First
that
Amender.
single
1ST
mothers-
Amender. Yeah. Fucking Trench moron. What a
Why you
fucking
drinking
idiot.
so much
Why is
before
he
you go
even
to work in
fucking
the morning?
weird? No, it was water. It's water. It's a gag. It's
He
pretty
was
funny though,
kidding.
isn't it? It's
Yeah,
pretty
he
funny.
was
You gotta
kidding. He
admit,
was
it's pretty
being a
funny.
smartass, like, you know.
Anyway, have a good night.
Like, hey,
Have
hey,
a good night. Thank you for
Appreciate it.
coming.
All right. I am done. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I don't know if you guys aren't subscribed, consider subscribing because Jesus fuck, dude, that was brutal. That was a brutal fucking. Let's see. I think that's all I got. Thank y'all.